Bush.
Hello?
Better, yeah, thank you.
Evening, welcome to the town board workshop. We're gonna be talking about zoning codes tonight, R20 and R30. Please join me for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you call the roll, please.
Here.
Case,
Here.
Here.
Councilperson Riley,
Here,
Councilperson Brown,
Here.
All right, it's been a while since we've been into this. Any idea where you want to pick up or where we left off or what questions, problems? We had a discussion about dogs going on.
We had that going on, and I was going back through it again, if you guys want, for what we had printed off. The first page that I had any question on was page 9. So that's when we get into the actual R20 districts for what's allowed. If you follow that down to number 4, paragraph A, we had discussed this at the last meeting as far as manure storage and buildings for animals be 100 feet from a property line. According to Ag and Markets law, that is, that's greater than what the side setbacks are for anything else in any other, for any other building in a residential districts, which is deemed as being overbearing. So I didn't know, I thought we had kind of talked about taking that out. I know it says regarding New York State Ag and Markets law when that applies, but I don't know why we would need that in there. It seems like a little bit of confusion for people.
we don't need what you're saying.
I don't think we need to have that in there for any
The-
shelters provided for livestock, fall for bearing animals, manure shall be 100 feet from the property line, where for commercial, any
So-
farm that's an actual farm, it's greater than, that's a greater restriction than what we have. And Ag and Markets law says that anything that's more restrictive than what the general law is considered overly restrictive.
Okay, but let's talk about that. Just to talk it through. When we talk about commercial farms, it's a whole different set of rules, and we're not talking about commercial farms here. We're talking about residential, primarily residences here. To distinguish it from a commercial farm where this doesn't apply. We know we have all the several, a number of laws on the books that we're not talking about, that this would not affect that. This is when we're talking about in a residential area. Just to apply that distinction, you're next to a residence, you're, closer than a big commercial farm. Not everybody has a big commercial farm. And that's not what we're talking about here. We're not putting those restrictions on a commercial operating farm. So this is a residential area. I think we need to think about that distinction.
What I had recorded, and I'm not sure if this satisfies the needs, but for the last sentence, where it says New York agriculture markets law shall apply. Just prior to that, so it would say within an ag district, New York agriculture markets law shall apply and district setback shall apply. So again, I don't know if that satisfies the need, but it recognizes that in an ag district, maybe you can't claim a bigger setback.
Right, and we talked about that, and then I think after that, I thought we had kind of decided that it was kind of confusing and that it might not need to be in there. Just, not all farmers follow and know exactly what Ag and Markets law is, and it could prohibit, some of them from doing stuff. I know there's instances where there's certain farms that are in all farms are typically in a residential district in this town. We don't have a district that's just for agriculture. There's no
Correct.
actual farming, so 90% of any farming activities, or 99% for that matter, all take place in a residential district.
Right. That is
It's-
true, but we're talking about commercial farms having their own set of rules where these setbacks don't apply necessarily. Could we say something like this, Dan? Could we say, unless it's within an ag district, this applies?
What defines it as a commercial farm though?
$10,000 revenue.
Yeah, Ag and Markets
and-
has defined laws
Yeah,
that make it like a commercial farm.
And and then we have that defined elsewhere in the code.
I think, Gene, to your point about the ag district, that might be language to have in there, because that's the only things that are protected
Right,
by Ag and Markets
ag and
law.
markets law,
So I guess if you were to add in there, it's like, yeah, if you could add in there that, within any property has to be 100 feet that is not in a New York State ag district, that would probably satisfy that.
Okay,
Okay, so we could say something like all shelters provided for livestock, fowl, or furthering animals and storage of manure. They'll be at least 100 feet from any property line unless within an ag district, New York State Ag and Markets law shall apply and district setback shall apply.
That sounds good.
makes sense?
Yeah, I'm also thinking about every person who goes to Tractor Supply and buys chickens now. And if they live on a lot that's only 200 feet wide, they're gonna have to put their chicken coop right in the middle.
That's a good point.
This, again, I'm just trying to think it all through.
I guess I wasn't thinking so much as
Well, because I
the
just,
chickens being on the edge of the property as I was thinking of piles of manure and other things that could be offensive.
but but it says even all shelters provided for livestock, fowl and fur bearing animals. So then it does.
It
essentially,
does,
a
the
chicken
shelters
coop,
have to have,
You
yeah.
gotta buy at least 6 chickens at Tractor Supply, and if you're buying a coop along with it, you can't put it within 100 feet of your property line, which we all know every other house, it seems like, is selling eggs.
Mhm.
And we recently got chickens.
I'm sorry,
We recently got chickens.
you did?
So that's what I mean, I guess, looking out for the greater majority of people who have something like this,
Yeah,
it wouldn't be hard to find a bunch of code violations
Hey.
like that.
Like-
Yeah. I think you could expect to see some chickens in an R20.
So I mean, if the storage of manure is the concern on a property line, I get it. I guess we'd have to think about how to, because at this point you're telling everybody who has chickens they can't have them.
Well, not exactly, but I get the point.
But if their lot, like, again, if the
Well,
lot's only 200 feet wide, it's,
right.
you're smack dab in the
This,
middle.
this is, yeah, it would enable somebody to say that didn't like their neighbors having chickens. That They don't, they're not 100 feet from a property line and there's no way for them to be 100 feet from a property line.
Mhm. So how do we resolve that, because there's a lot in here.
Right.
I think people might object to a pile of manure on the property line.
Absolutely.
Well. I don't know. The way I look at it is the signs say when we come into town, this is a farming community.
Yeah.
And there's things that are associated with it. So I guess my thought would be no animal shall be pastured or otherwise kept in such a manner that they can cause physical damage to any adjoining property. And from that point on, I would scratch the rest of it.
Mhm.
That's my thought.
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense.
So Scott, have you come across anything or any guidance in this regard?
The statement as written comes from a number of other towns, so it's not unusual, but if you'd like to omit the red line, we'll do that. Just let me know.
I know. Annette, can you also note that Scott is here? Working with us. Okay, thanks.
I agree with Dan.
Okay, that's the preference. We'll get rid of the red addition.
Well, then can we expand on no animals shall be pastured or otherwise kept in such a manner that they cause physical damage to any adjoining property or have offensive odors, uncovered piles of manure? How do we add that in so that we can?
That's
That's a fine
slippery,
line.
yeah, because if the wind's right, you can smell
From
the cows from Mulligan's heading to have on.
Yeah, I know, but
that,
I guess, farming community, I can deal with that.
Yeah.
Going past that. I'm just trying to protect a residential area and just make a distinction between what someone may have, and I do support that. I mean, we all go to everybody's farm markets and buy stuff.
What if
And
we
I think
went,
it's a great thing that we have that in Rush. I am proud of that. But I want to make sure that we're not causing problems to somebody else,
all right, so,
that we're respectful. I'm just saying, can we expand on that last black sentence before the red about the,
so we're worried about like a residential houses, chicken and a pile of chicken manure. So
Only in rush.
So if we're looking at that, I think there'll be some people here could probably wordsmith it better than me, but you get a pile of chicken manure, it's time to move it, time to take care of it, not let it just build up. Right? So maintenance around your chicken farm
I mean,
or
this,
chicken coop.
well, this kind of the second half of that sentence, though, storage of manure shall be at least 100 feet from the property line.
I'm just trying to help
Yeah, no, I
answer that issue, right?
I just don't want to overlook it. We have an opportunity to put it in there and be fair to everybody
I mean,
and make
you
it clear.
keep the pile 150 feet away from the lot lines,
But some places that might not be,
might run in the same.
right?
Depending on how the wind blows.
yeah.
Like your R20 as well, remember 150 foot wide?
It's in here. I don't remember right off the top
So
of
it's
my head.
technically impossible to be 150 feet from your.
I don't know. I'm comfortable with just striking the red out of it.
I mean, John Scott does mention in green, the 50 to 150 foot setback for any livestock housing and manure is common in many other towns. So we could say, 50 feet.
We could say 50. And it may or may not solve the problem. Like the people thinking about it.
So if they're just off that 50-foot mark, and they have no leg to stand on, code enforcement.
But we're trying to give them a leg to
No, I
stand
know, I
on,
know. Agreed.
and not be,
Have we had a huge problem with this at this point?
I have no idea.
I haven't
We're
heard-
sitting here beating this around. We're a farming community.
I know.
And I don't know that this has been a real issue yet. Like and I can't see it.
I don't know.
I know-
live 1,000 feet from
I-
my nearest neighbor. I can't tell.
Right, but, and I know we've been told, some of these rules are for the 1%.
Yeah.
And,
Unfortunately,
and I can't wrap my head around burdening 99% of the town for 1% that would be a problem. I think a lot of it can be handled internally. I don't think we need to have so many rules dictating how people live their lives in a town of 3,200 people. That's my take on it.
unfortunately, we live in a society where not everybody shows the respect that you might to your neighbor.
Hey, I get it.
I'm not trying to be a pain in the arse here, but I guess I am, but
I wouldn't say
we're
that.
talking about it. We started back here,
Right.
but
No, and we should talk about it, but I'm just looking at it like,
what
I
does-
talk to people, I've been around and I'm like, I don't know that I've ever heard anyone be like, well,
Let me
that
ask
pile
our,
of chicken manure right there is
our,
really
I mean,
ruining
I
my
know you're
life."
not the code enforcement officer, but you know the law. Like, if we don't have something in there and someone finds that someone is abusing their ability to have,
There's other parts of the code that say you can't do things on your property that cause noise, odor,
Yeah.
and other things that you could probably bring into play.
So can we just refer to that code here?
You'd have to look and make sure that it would apply in this situation.
right, that's all,
But I don't know, it just seems like like to John's point just now, if it was, a real serious odor issue, I'm pretty sure that Rick would have means to deal with it. And I think most people, if they found out that, hey, your neighbor's really having trouble with it, most people would try and resolve it. So that's my 2 cents on it.
I think it's just reserved to the code that we already got for odor, offensive odors and so forth, and just put a line in there. for offensive odors for neighbors, refer to town code. Whatever.
Right under accessory use, it's just above it. It says no use shall create noise, dust, vibration, smell, smoke, glare, electrical interference, fire hazard, or any other nuisance to any greater extent than usually experienced in an average residential occupancy.
Okay,
So scratch it.
well, that's under accessory uses and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, with the chicken coop being accessory use?
Probably.
If we got into a manure on a lot line, it was offensive. First thing I do is call Monroe County Board of Health.
There you
Come
go.
out, we take 'em.
Okay. Got your word on that.
Okay.
Again, I'm not anticipating problems.
No, it's, we're all entitled to speak our minds.
Yep.
We're going through this.
Well,
This is now
never
or
know.
never. I'm just trying to, so we are scratching that? Is that, we're scratching that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Dogs.
We'll get to that point.
I'm sorry.
Luther said dogs, but
Oh.
I haven't gotten,
Okay.
I'm just working. And if anybody, I just mark things in earmarked pages and I'm just kind of going through it. So if any of you guys have anything in between, I feel like this is typically how it goes. Like I start bringing it up and then we kind of go through it. So on page 11, and just so we're clear on what we're talking about, these are in an R20. And these transfer over to R30s as well, correct, Scott? Okay, so these in an R20. These are permitted uses with a special use permit. The first one that I had a question with was number 8. We had commercial horse stables, dog kennels, indoor dog training facilities. And I'm gonna bring up ag and markets again. I don't know that for an actual commercial horse stable that qualifies as a commercial horse stable under ag and markets law, I don't know that you can require them to have a special use permit because it is a recognized agricultural business.
What I had recorded from, I think it was August 4th or something, was for 8, we would add commercial horse stables not within an ag district,
Okay,
dog kennels.
I guess
And then, the prior page, we would add a number 6, which was one of the allowed uses was, commercial horse stables.
Okay.
in an ag district.
all right, I'm sorry. Yes, I didn't, that's not what my copy says here. So, okay, that's,
I made personal notes of those. I did
Okay,
not issue it.
great, all right, thank you. The other one going down to what was number 11, now number 9. And I know we had talked about this is on the same page,
Yeah,
is the outdoor parking of commercial vehicles. And it says that it's allowed with a special use permit, and Scott, I know we had talked about it, I guess I don't. What bothers me about this is that you have to get a special use permit to park a commercial vehicle outside, where a fair amount of employees are given a commercial vehicle that they have to drive on their business. And now we're requiring them to get a special use permit. And it just seems like a lot of hassle where I don't think, again, it's one of these things where I'm like, is this really a major issue where we have to have residents that are potentially issued a vehicle through their work to have to be able to do it? And it seems like it just seems too restrictive. It's just, it's another one of those things that I just don't feel it's necessary that we need to have a special use permit for a commercial vehicle, where in the definition of commercial vehicles, it's anything that has markings on the side that identify a business. I mean, it could be a Mary Kay car or anything really. And it
It could be a 6-wheel dump truck.
it could be a 6-wheel dump truck, and If it's
And we
one,
have those,
what's that?
and we have those.
And I guess I know of one instance where was a major issue. Outside of that, I can't think of a lot of problems that we've had, but I know. Luther, you have a
Yeah.
company truck with
Thanks.
names on the side of it, but there's a lot of people that do, and again, further down in there, in paragraph B, we're proposing only one commercial vehicle per residence, and sometimes it's out of people's control that they may have, it may be a husband and wife that work for the same company, or a father and son, or, a parent and a sibling and, or a child. And it's just like, I just haven't seen that much of an issue. I could see potentially if somebody was driving maybe a tractor trailer home and it was there for months on end. I could see maybe an issue with that in some of the more dense residential districts. But that would be a very, very unique case. And I just don't,
But yet we did have that right here in the hamlet for a long time,
of what's that? I'm sorry.
a tractor trailer.
I guess I'm not aware.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't remember it either.
Where was that?
really, right down the road from you. Coming into town.
A tractor trailer, like an 18-wheeler?
It was pretty big. I didn't count the wheels, but I know this was,
Oh.
And I used to park around my house
Billy
constantly.
Cole.
huh? Not your house.
Oh,
Not
Billy
yet.
Cole, when he had the monster truck.
oh, yeah,
was a
yeah.
kid.
And there
okay.
was.
Yeah.
At any rate, it could
But
happen.
that
So
was,
why can't
it would
we?
have been commercial though, right?
Oh, it was definitely commercial.
It was an
What do you mean?
18-wheeler that had a
Oh.
monster truck in the back.
Yeah,
Oh, that's, yeah.
yeah. But, so, okay. Two
My son
cases
just
that we
moved-
can think of in the last
My
10
son
years.
just moved back home and he got a job. He picked up his commercial vehicle yesterday. I haven't even seen it yet, but it's gonna be parked in my driveway.
Right, so it's just, I would hate to have a job where, or it could be me, honestly. I could drive one of my work trucks home that say Chase's Greenhouse on the side, park it in my driveway. My neighbor doesn't like that. I get a complaint. Now I gotta come down and get a special use permit to park that in my driveway?
Well, you're not a good example because you have a farm, you live on a farm. There's, all above rules
It,
don't
it
apply.
doesn't matter. It's the same rules for
Well,
every.
can we say something, kind of quantifying it? Not, you have, Luther, you have a pickup truck that happens to be commercial, for a company name on it, but it's a pickup truck. Big one, but it's a pickup truck, as opposed to a dump truck, somebody driving home or equivalent that may be problematic or could be to some. There is a difference. I think most people would agree.
Well, could we run it through a,
Well,
like
pickups and
a simple
vans.
permit, they just come into the town and just like we were the wetland district, we have a checklist, right? What are you gonna bring? Well, I'm bringing a tractor trailer home. Check, now you're off the planning board or zoning board. I'm going to pickup truck, okay, $10, 15, whatever the charge is.
I don't think I should have to pay anything.
don't
Why
think
should
this-
I have to pay anything if my job
I'm
makes me
just-
drive a truck? It's,
I can think of somebody who has a 6-wheel truck, like a F-350, but it's a service body on the back. Same scenario. So they would have to get a permit.
the way that this is, the way that
Correct.
this is constructed, yes.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's necessary.
And so
I
you're saying anything goes, and that's not right either.
We limit it to vans and pickups or even 6-wheel, stop it at 6 or.
I would agree that if someone wanted to park their tractor trailer in the middle of town, yes, it might become an issue. But if, to Dan's point, if someone's driving home a dually service truck, and maybe they're a mechanic and they're on call 24 hours a day and they need to
Yeah.
have that truck with them to make them go through the process of getting a permit.
How,
But
how,
this also says exceeding 2 axles. Not many of these trucks are gonna have more than 2 axles.
Not to exceed 2
And
axles,
those that do, those are the ones you worry.
right? I also, I have a slight problem with the 2 axles, and here's my, here's my reasoning. I know, and I've seen it, there's one example I can think of in town. The guy's a over-the-road truck driver, from what I can tell. That's what it looks like, 18-wheeler. But he doesn't bring his trailer home. But he does sometimes bring the truck home.
So if he's gonna bring a tractor trailer cab home, routine basis, what's the problem with them getting a permit?
Right. It's, you don't turn them away. It's an
No.
easy thing. They come in, 2 minutes, they get a permit, right?
Well, they'd have to get a special permit, so they'd have to go through the planning board, but I mean, if you're gonna park a big Kenworth next to the house, you know, I don't think that's unreasonable to ask for a special permit. You know, any one of your trucks, whether it's a 6-wheel dump, it could be a dually pickup truck, those are all 2 axles.
No, I understand that. But I just. I am thinking of, I'm trying to think of everybody, and it seems that. It's, I guess maybe I have a different outlook than most people. I don't. If people drive a tractor without a trailer home and they park it in their driveway, and that's what they use to make their living, more power to them. Good luck, have fun, and I'm not gonna bother with you. That's my outlook on it. But I guess if there's other people that don't like that their neighbor's a truck driver and once in a while brings that truck home and it's gonna bother them, and I guess.
This is just something the committee put together.
No, I understand, but, right, and well, obviously I kind of do.
The committee didn't come up with the idea of a special permit for outside parking of commercial vehicles.
Right.
It's in the code right now. But this paragraph, and I will point out, it says 1 commercial vehicle per resident. So husband and wife both have them, that would be okay.
Okay,
But we could move this up to number 9 in the previous section. That does not require a special permit.
I'm glad you explained it that way. So when I said per resident, I took it as per residence.
Oh,
So you're talking per resident, so anybody that's it.
It says in no case shall more than 2 such commercial vehicles per dwelling be permitted. So that would cover your husband and wife, or, you know, now if you've got a kid that's there too.
I'm just, I can think of right now in the town of Rush that there's a house that once in a while has 2 Monroe County Sheriff cars parked in the driveway. And those would be considered commercial vehicles with the signs on it, and it's,
All right, so that allows it.
it does, but if there was one other person. And why would it, what would be the problem, I guess, if there was 3? I just don't know why we're trying to,
We put down 2. I mean,
I get it.
if we put down 4, then would 5 be too much?
No,
You know,
that's why I don't know why I don't know if I'm of the opinion that I don't know that I don't want to restrict residents. If they've got, you know, whatever situation is going on, but then it's like, you know, all of a sudden, and probably 99% of the time, it wouldn't be an issue. Nobody would say anything. But all of a sudden, a neighbor gets in a dispute and they're like, well, you're not allowed to do this. And then it's a hassle, and you got to go to the planning, and you got to wait 2 to 3 months to get on the meeting, and it's
This is just a suggestion.
right.
And one of the things that this does is when we do have the situation, we've got something that we can fall back on, just like we did the other night at the town board meeting when you folks approved our ability to bring a contractor. We haven't been able to do that because we had nothing in the court to
Right.
support it. So if you take this out, and then I do get the neighbor that complains, or Rick does, I've got nothing to base this on. If there is an issue, we've got complaints because there's lots in town, several, where there's fire trucks parked there. And what do I do with those? Do I tell these guys, haul them off the site? That becomes difficult. But again,
Well, and that's kind of the other
doesn't have to
thing.
convince me, it just.
No, but that's the other thing. So there are, what I can think of 3 residents off the top of my head that have fire trucks in, but they're vintage to them, they're collectibles, they're just, so they're
But if somebody complains, what, what do you want Rick and I to do? Without code, I can't do it.
And for something like that, I would prefer that you didn't, but that's my opinion.
I don't, we live in a neighborhood, there's a plenty of neighborhoods that somebody may find a big truck a problematic, to their enjoyment of a bucolic neighborhood setting, and to look out and see some big commercial vehicle. I think we have to have some recourse and some threshold to say like, okay, this is a residential area, maybe that's gone too far. At what point, where would it be, you want anything to go, Dan, and that, we gotta come
I-
back to the middle
I guess
somewhere.
that you're not wrong about that. I do,
And,
I'm
and,
pretty lenient.
and I don't,
because
because
I want
think
people to just live
I
there.
think people abuse it. And
And-
you've gotta have some recourse for the person that has a problem with that, if it's abusive.
Well,
About the guy with 2 fire trucks at his house. What do you do about that?
I don't know, of any,
It
but
doesn't appear as neighbors are complaining at this point, but
Right.
Uh.
I mean, I've seen them, but I guess to me, it's more the other big, more than the 2 axles kind of thing that people were maybe driving around and parking, and it may look terrible. I don't know. I don't know. I just want them to have some recourse, because, I believe strongly in a residential area as being, you're entitled in this country to have peace and tranquility when you're home.
and to that point, Gene, yeah, you're entitled, but you're also entitled to work a job, and if you have to drive a company truck,
So I
you're
get a
entitled.
permit. I get a permit. I go march into the town.
I shouldn't have to get a permit. You don't have to get a permit to park in your driveway. I already pay taxes. I have a job. I shouldn't have to get a permit to park in my driveway because I have a truck that has a company name on the side of it.
I'm not,
But this
I'm
is-
already making a distinction that, a pickup truck with, a name on the side of it should, to me, is not bothersome.
Eh,
I'm thinking bigger things.
And I could make an argument that there's people I know that drive tractor trailer for a living, and they take those trucks home if they have to go somewhere at night or the next morning, and those trucks sit in the driveway and they leave at 6:30 in the morning and they're gone. Maybe we could come up, if you wanted, if we wanted to have something in there, I guess,
I mean,
You
these
could
things-
change it.
These suggestions are
Mm.
not out of the blue. These exist in other towns.
I get it. And here's what I would say, I guess, if we had to have something for parking of commercial vehicles that exceed 2 axles, you could, I could,
I'll go over the exceeds 24,000 pounds, because 24,000 pounds, Derek could drive the truck. He could drive the truck. Cross 24,000 pounds, you need a CDL,
Actually, I could drive the truck.
right? So I'm just saying, you could use the weight limit on it. You still could bring a tandem axle flatbed home or something. That's a relatively light duty truck. Heavier than a pickup truck, but it's a light duty truck. And then when you get into the tractor trailers, I can see it if you're out on the farm. Me and Dan out on our farms are fine. But up on Middle Road, you may not want that thing starting up at 5 in the morning. A lot of times the winter time, they get the smoke blowing around. It's just heavy air, and they smell like diesel and stink like heck.
Exactly.
So I don't have a problem. I know I'm kind of going against Dan a little bit here, but I'm thinking a permit for the large scale truck. And maybe we can have an expedited system, so I don't have to wait 3 months to go through planning. Maybe we could do it some simpler way. But I don't have a problem saying, okay, at that 24,000 and beyond, you come down and get a permit. After that, we're okay, we can park it in your yard. You know, as long as it doesn't look like a truck stop in your yard. You know, half a dozen of them.
I thought we had this conversation about weight before.
I think we had.
We did, I said, a lot of this is all repetitive, we're doing the same thing
No,
over
I
and
know.
over here, but.
I'm in agreement about if it's a weight class. Because then you are excluding large commercial vehicles. But
I would be fine.
I kind of side with Dan. I mean, as far as the permitting process goes, I think it should just be something that maybe John could handle. You know, no fee though. Why charge somebody to get a permit? Not, at least they come down, they get the permit. John knows that they have this commercial vehicle, and if an issue comes up, he knows right where to go to and who to talk to.
Yeah, I would be fine. I don't know if that's something that would fall under, would it be John or would it be Rick? Would it be more of a code enforcement thing or?
John's sitting in the room, so. I
Yeah,
just figured-
I know.
Oh, no.
So we would eliminate the two axles and put a weight limit of 24,000 pounds.
But a weight limit of 24,000 pounds. So not all commercial vehicles, just ones that exceed 24,000 pounds would have to obtain a special permit from, we would have to,
Don't call it a special permit, because
that
Yeah.
automatically goes to planning, right? So they would have to obtain a permit from code enforcement.
administrative.
Yeah, would it be through code enforcement?
The question is, what guidelines does the code enforcement officer or the building inspector use? When you talk about a special permit, it's written up that there is consideration of the neighborhood essentially. What criteria would the CEO or building inspector use?
They would have to bring in their vehicle registration, which lists their,
What if it's
their
a driveway
operating
right
weight.
next to somebody else's? There is, driveway can be on the boundary of a property. There is no setback for a driveway. You could have a case where somebody's bedroom is 25 feet from that driveway where a 10-wheeler's backing in. Or a cab or a tractor trailer's backing in. I mean, this town doesn't allow you to park a recreational trailer in your driveway. Yeah, we would allow a cab of a 18-wheeler.
Uh,
Whatever you want.
no, I understand, I understand.
This paragraph could be up to prior special permits, and we could add something that in addition requires a permit that would be totally different, couldn't fall in this section because this is for special permits.
I think we gotta put it somewhere. There's gotta be a limit. I like your idea, Luther.
You know, the whole idea here was that you can't have a business and park vehicles on your residential property unless you go through the right safeguards and right permitting process. So if you just say commercial vehicles are allowed, then it's almost like saying you can have any business you want. So there's gotta be some limit, some size limit, some number limit. And it's gotta be the situation in which the commercial vehicles there have to be controlled somehow. Or essentially, you're allowing any business in a residential district.
Well, not necessarily, I guess, right? If we get into the minor and major home occupations that you have, so that would limit that. On this.
This wasn't intent to allow the other situation where a person's driving a commercial vehicle because they use it for their business, for their occupation somewhere else, so it's their employee's vehicle, their employer's vehicle.
Mhm.
That's all this was really intended to do. I said, we could move this paragraph up to number 9 in the previous section, so it does not require a public comment. What you want to do around bigger process, you have to decide.
So where would that, Number 9.
Yeah, so if you go on the previous page, there's I guess it would be a number 8. It's 6 would change, I mean, there's no way to there's an active grid. 7 becomes minor home occupation,
I don't see that.
and it's 8.
I don't see that. Oh, page
Would that-
10. Okay, it's on 6. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So if we were to move paragraph B up, would we start at A? Would A and B both go up then in number 9?
I think so,
Nine, eight, and
the whole
B.
thing.
Yeah,
Because B, yeah. A and B would move up, and in fact, C could move up too, because it's part of a minor home occupation. Divided in 12060 C. So that, I mean, I could move up too.
okay,
There's already a set of requirements for minor home occupations.
right. So if we move that up, I guess the other question is, are we?
I mean, I think my way I'm looking at this, we're starting to fudge it now. We're taking something that guy comes home on the weekend, or driving a pickup truck home from his company. Now we're going to a home business at the home. I mean, to me, that's night and day difference.
It is. I
Yeah.
mean, there's
And
all.
I don't know why
separate
we're
section
trying
of
to,
that.
we're trying to combine this into that.
I thought the way I was looking at it is
I
we were
agree.
just,
I don't want to, that's a separate set of rules when we get there.
right, but I think the way I was looking at it is we were just saying that for somebody that's driving a truck like that home from work or commercial vehicle, that's an allowed use without a permit, is how I understand is what we're doing.
Right, that's why I said you
Yeah,
essentially move number 9 up to,
Make it number 6.
yeah, and then that C, that being part of the minor home occupation, that,
probably be.
That's a different set of rules.
yes,
On page 10.
Or make it a 7, okay.
What's now number 6 becomes 8.
So 9A, B, move over to.
Yeah,
mhm,
it would be
6.
above this, because,
Yep.
would be in the A section, not requiring a special.
And then C will move over to home occupation. Correct.
so. So in that, do we want to put, instead of where it says 2 axles in the 2 spots? Anything below, anything under 24,000 pounds? Is that what we agreed on as a weight scale for this? Instead of an axle scale, is that? That's kind of what I was hearing, right?
How about
Yeah.
2
I mean,
axles?
24,000 pounds, you're still basically 2 axles
For the most part,
for the most part. 98% of your trucks are gonna be 2
Yeah.
axles, be tandem, or not tandem, dual,
right, dual, yes.
but not.
Yeah.
Not more than. 2
So can we
axles.
say
Yeah.
exceed 2 axles or 24,000 pounds?
I think that's fine.
Or
I would just stick with the 24,000 pounds personally, but it's up to all of us.
go with 2 axles or 24,000 pounds. I think all of that was reasonable.
Did we want to consider more than 2 vehicles per residence, or is everyone comfortable with just 2?
I think 2 is good.
Luther?
I think 2 is fine. That's, they kind of hits like we talked about, father and son.
Mhm.
daughter and mother, you know, Mary Kay, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So, just so we're clear. Number 9 on this, for permitted, for uses permitted. What are we gonna do with that then? Cause if that's not gonna be a special use permit, then it's not gonna fall into this section anymore.
Correct, that's why it's moving up to number 7.
And we're gonna word that, we're gonna word that
It becomes allowed.
an allowed use, but you still need to get some sort of a.
However, uses allowed. Yes.
So-
But I thought anything over 24,000 that then we were going to get. Have to get, what was the word you used? Not a special, something like that. So that, where does that go then? Where would that fall? Cause it doesn't,
It would
if it's not a special use permit, it doesn't fall under allowed uses with a special use permit.
Correct.
So where do we
Okay.
put that now?
We should make reference. You know, anything exceeding these thresholds would fall under, the next section B.
Could we, Scott, could there be something before we get into like, allowed uses with a special use permit? Have like another section for allowed uses with, administrative permit? It would just be the one item, I guess, but could we add a spot for something like that?
Seems more straightforward if you just say. Add another paragraph or another line to be on page 11. Saying that. Commercial vehicles exceeding 24,000 pounds. Shall be subject to a permit from CEO or whatever.
Okay.
Okay.
And it's really 24 pounds GVW, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so unfortunately,
No, that's good at that.
yeah, he is.
We come up with a form, I'll write it, okay.
Okay.
I think that covers it. I think if you move 9, B, and C up to previous section, that's number 7. We haven't talked about, but it links into minor home occupation, so
Right,
uses there are covered.
The next thing that I had marked down, was on page 12. And that's when we first got into the R30 and the
mm-hmm,
RR5 residential districts.
mm-hmm,
And it's just so right, we don't actually have any active RR5 districts in the town of Rush right now, right?
no,
There's nothing like that.
nothing is that way
Um,
currently. We have a ability, elsewhere within the code sections, we refer to it, but we actually don't have any zone.
So there was one thing I thought maybe we should just look into adding. And it doesn't have to be a permitted use, it could be one with a special use permit. There's there's a growing call for local products and local ag products in particular. And there's starting to be more smaller livestock producers around, whether in this town or neighboring towns or anything like that. What they're running into is a lack of processing facilities for their livestock. So I didn't know if maybe we ought to think about having that somewhere on, among other businesses, but that was one that I was kind of like, huh. I got to call like 8 months out to get into one of these places sometimes. Maybe it, and I was looking through it and I'm like, I don't see anything even remotely close. What if somebody did want to open up in a, to supply the Dollar General? But I'm just thinking, I don't know, is it something that we should think about including, or? I mean, I literally
What if
just
people
thought
say
about it.
no, if they get a deer, where do you go?
Well, a deer, I mean, I'm talking about like for like actual like livestock. I have to
Okay.
drive to Buffalo or Clyde.
So we're
Or-
talking about commercial operation.
It would be, yes, it would be more of a, it would be, yeah, it would be a processing facility. Yep. The problem is, and
Do we
I-
talk about that in our?
it didn't ever
We're
came up.
focusing on residential,
And-
maybe that would go, something that would be in our limited industrial, I can't remember.
There was nothing
Maybe
was brought
Scott-
up, I thought about, there was nothing close to that in any of those two codes that we did. But I'm just speaking off of my experience and going to different facilities in different places. Most of these places are in what you would consider a commercial district where there, a lot of them are in what we would have. I don't know what their zones are or what their codes are, but pretty rural, pretty residential places where you're going with most. I can only think of one really that maybe was more in it, more of a somewhat populated area, I guess, but I don't know, it's not a deal breaker, but it's just something where it's like, geez, as we're going through this stuff, I don't wanna, especially with, I know there's a bunch of guys that are starting to do some more smaller livestock, and if there became a need where somebody was like, geez, I'd like to start up a butcher shop or something like that, then
When
So-
that go in the commercial?
Yeah,
Yeah.
at some
Commercial.
point, we gotta say,
The guy processing a deer in his garage, I get. But if somebody's hauling cattle in or,
so that's fine, but let me put it to you this way. So let's look at some of like the commercial districts or commercial areas we have. So you're bringing in these livestock trailers into these places and unloading animals. When it's something like that, it would be more of a better fit in more of a rural area than it would be in a commercial area.
I thought we opened Pandora's box with this whole mess.
I know.
Like I said, it's not a deal breaker to me. It was just one of these things that I was reading over a bunch, like, what are permitted uses with or without a special use permit, and I was like, geez, we don't have anybody that does it, but I wouldn't take it off the table that it could happen.
But then reverting back, if they go to a farm, they start out small. Then the next thing you know, they're down here planning board and they got trucks going in and out. I think something like that could probably fly to some degree because of the cattle and the livestock side of it.
Well, that's why I said,
But,
that's why with a special use permit.
yeah. But I guess until someone comes banging at the door, I don't know.
But if they do come banging at the door, John, and you can speak to this. If somebody came and said, hey, this is what I want to do, you're gonna look at this and go,
Yeah.
not happening.
Because it could fit under a major home occupation. There's nothing in our major home occupation write-up that excludes any particular business. I might add, Lima has about 2 pages of things they will not allow as a home occupation. We didn't do anything like that. Now, that would restrict people in the number of non-resident employees they could have. It would restrict people on what amount of a accessory building they could use for it and size, but there's nothing in our code that would prevent that use from falling under a major home occupation, other than the other general size limitations, which you probably still want.
Here's another thing, if you look at R20 permitted uses,
I went to R30 on this.
anything in R20 is included in R30.
Yeah, but then R30, maybe we don't want that in an
I'm just
R20.
saying, if you look at page 9, number 4. A, it talks about processing agricultural products,
Okay,
page 9.
down to A, I see that.
4A down at the bottom. Does that include processing agricultural product, what you're talking about?
It could.
I could see somebody taking that argument. No,
No, I agree. No,
not sure-
no, I
saying that
no, I appreciate, no, I guess I overlooked or didn't think of it in that regard. So I'm fine. I just, like I said, it wasn't a deal. It was just something that popped into my head. It's going through stuff, so. I guess I didn't have anything else until page 17.
Check my notes.
Everything
Okay.
to do with other townhouses. I didn't see anything with that.
I'm sorry?
Manufactured homes and everything. I didn't have any issue with that, no.
No, we don't.
Okay, I have nothing on those pages.
So I know we talked about this.
which one?
What's that, 120, so. B. 1 and, so where it says 1 and 2,
Yeah,
I'm at B. I know we talked about the roll-off containers or Verity boxes.
Page 10.
Page 17. Are we all still comfortable? We kind of left it at, they would get a variance, I think is what was the last thing we said on,
Right.
Metal storage bags?
correct.
Yeah.
I think when we were discussing that, the more I drive around town, the more I see of them now that we've talked about it, and I'm just kind of like, they don't really bother me that much, but,
There's 2 on Phelps Road, it's at way back.
Way back, yeah.
And they got a variance for.
did they get that? How long ago did they get that, John?
I think it was last year.
Oh, really? And so how does that work? So my thought with the variances is you have to show, correct me if I'm wrong, is it's gotta be some sort of hardship where, so,
It's not self-created. And is a lot of that hinged on the distance away from the road, the inability to really see them, and the fact that they have been there for quite a while
right,
without any enforcement.
so I guess let's be a little bit of a,
You want one in the Hamlet.
but that's a,
That's the other end of the stuff.
well, but
Right.
but in the Hamlet, a lot of that's not an R20 or an R30, right? That's
The Hamlet, well, it's now multi-use Hamlet.
Right.
but Prior to that. it was most
prior to that, right? So, but now in the MHU, that's not allowed there, so we probably wouldn't have that in the Hamlet because it's not an allowed use. But I'm just thinking, I don't know, Luther, you publicly stated that you have one on your property at the last meeting, but I've seen them at other places and it's like
I've seen where they put 2 with a gap in the middle and they have.
a cover over the top.
Right.
Over the top.
Yeah, I've seen stuff too. I just. again, like Derek, you said that you guys used them at the school or whatever, and it was like the tightest, most secure,
They're nice.
rodent-free, just, it's a decent storage space. I'm kind of leaning towards it. You treat it like any other structure that you would as far as like, with the setbacks or like an Amish, or like an Amish
Yeah.
built shed or any kind of structure like that that you would bring in. And that we allow those roll-off type containers, if that's what we want to call them. The cargo trucks and the trailers, those I can see being more of an issue. They're more of an eyesore, I think. But, the roll-off containers, I don't know.
To me, roll-off container, I think dumpster.
Yeah, that's what.
That's what I think of.
Well, I don't
The
know.
one you want, like what you're talking about, I think, shipping container.
Shipping,
Just,
yeah, that's fine.
I
Yeah.
think if you're gonna allow that, like mine came in with a huge billboard sign from the company that we got it from, we took that all off, so I think if they were gonna allow no advertising, it would have to be painted a neutral color, something in that order, if you're gonna have it, you know. That's if you decide to allow it. But
And
I know that I came in with a 4x8 sheet of painted sign on the side of it there that we got off of it. So it doesn't look like a billboard in
Yeah.
the house.
And this is in R30, right? So this isn't in an R20 district, so this is more of the open properties that we have.
We're looking at these
Well, this
as
is
permanent
another-
or,
This is another section altogether. In general. We're not talking, I think.
Did we, oh, yeah, you're right. we
This
might
is
have
in
skipped-
general.
Yep, okay, good point. Thank you.
This would apply to any place that,
Yep,
any district that says accessory building.
okay. So it would probably go each you. I don't know. I guess. For me, I don't care, but as it was said earlier, there's not much that I get too bothered about, but I don't know. Do we just want to stick with what we said before and just
Leave it.
get a variance, or do you?
Yeah, I mean, people always have that as, make their case for a variance,
Yeah,
other than making carte blanche accepted.
So if we did that, because you have to have a hardship, right, for the variance,
I mean,
to apply for a variance, you have to have. a
like
hardship.
nothing else.
There's 5 criteria.
I'm sorry?
What's the criteria, John? Sorry,
There's 5 criteria the planning board looks at,
The zoning board.
the zoning board, yes, and, it can't be a self-created hardship, let me. I will- Here, man.
It depends if it's a use variance or a area variance.
the area variances, the use variances are very,
That's the hard one.
yes. Yes,
That one,
Mhm.
yeah, areas because you don't have enough space and you want to
Correct.
be 5 feet closer to the setback or whatever kind of
Yeah.
thing. But a use variance is the more restrictive one that
Yeah.
probably has to do with the, self-created stuff. Like when you moved there, you knew that. You can't just.
I have mixed feelings on it. I get, cargo truck, trailer, parked in the side lawn, roll off. Again, we've used those containers multiple times at work, and they are more structurally sound than any shed you could ever buy at Lowe's.
But they're virtually unbreakable to break
Right.
into. That's
Yeah.
why I got it, because it's got a lot of high-end tools in there.
Right, so I see the use behind it, but again, like you said, if you get one that's a giant billboard, you gotta have some sort of regulation behind that.
So it says no use variance shall be granted unless in addition to satisfying all other applicable provisions of law in this chapter, the Board of Appeals finds that otherwise applicable zoning regulations and restrictions have caused unnecessary hardship. And an unnecessary hardship, in order to prove such unnecessary hardship, the applicant is required to clearly demonstrate to the Board of Appeals that with respect to every permitted use under the zoning regulations for the particular district where the property is located, each and every one of the following four criteria is satisfied. A, the applicant cannot realize a reasonable return on the entire parcel of property, and such lack of return is substantial as demonstrated by competent financial evidence, which really wouldn't apply. That the alleged hardship relating to the property in question is unique and does not apply to a substantial portion of the district or neighborhood involved. C, that the requested use variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. And D, that the alleged hardship is not itself created. So the first two are really kind of negligible. What you're looking at, it's not applying to the whole district, which is B. C, that the variance, if granted, isn't going to affect the essential character of the neighborhood, and that the alleged hardship has not been self-created.
I'm gonna ask Amber, because she was a former chair of the zoning board, and I know she knows this as well. And she's asking to clarify something, and I just assume,
Go ahead.
What John, I believe, was referring to is what's called use variance. What Dan, you're talking about is an area variance that's got brought up. You're right, the use variance that John spoke is pretty much next to impossible to get. A typical area variance, which for a shed, which is what you're talking about, and if you just look at any of the minutes, I'm just gonna read it for you, the five things. There's no undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. The benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method. This is what the ZBA has to look at. The requested area variance is not substantial, so they have to do a little math where they want to place it. The request shall not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical and environmental conditions. And then again, the famous one, it's not self-created, but they all are. So. The applicant is granting the variance outweighs the possibility detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood. So it's just what you typically see.
Okay.
That's how I would interpret. And I appreciate what John Lundbeck shared. That's the use variance. If someone wants to come in and do something completely different on the property, using it versus say I want to do commercial and everything. Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you.
And
I
to
get-
Amber's point, that's the one on Phelps Road. It was so far back, you couldn't see it,
Right.
and impact the neighborhood.
I guess I don't have an issue with having to get a variance for it. I just kind of wanted to retouch on that, see if anybody. What about, and I think we talked about this one too, the 3 accessory buildings. And I know we saw the example that Scott had on Phelps Road where there was a bunch of buildings that were up on the road and.
Yeah.
But. So, maybe this was brought up, and I don't remember, it might have been brought up at the last meeting where it's like. And it seems, now that we're talking about it, it seems like it was. So if I had like a tool shed and another little, and like a chicken coop, or so you might have a couple larger buildings and then all of a sudden, chicken coop's number 4 and you're like, no, you can't do, so, I mean, do we need, I know there's abuse of it sometimes, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if 3 is the right number, if we maybe. It sounds probably stupid to be like 4, but I don't know if there's something. What's everybody else think, I guess? 3 seems like, geez, I mean, I know there's properties in town where they have a house, maybe 1 or 2 buildings and then like another small building and all of a sudden, you're at or above that limit pretty quick. So I just.
If you count a house or.
No, I know the house, this is just for accessories, so let's say you had, you might have a small shed, a pole barn, maybe like a lean-to, and then all of a sudden,
Detached garage, does that count?
detached garage is not, that is only a attached garage is not A
Doesn't count.
detached garage is an accessory structure,
Yeah.
so
So you could hit three in a heartbeat.
that's what I was
Lawn
getting at.
tractor shed,
Right,
the garage, and
yes.
a doghouse.
I don't know about doghouse, but
Well-
I guess chicken, if a chicken coop counts, a doghouse would, but I guess that's what I was worried, like, three seems
Three's on the short side, I think.
right. And so here's my other thought on this. I think on where you have like larger properties, people that have larger pieces of property that are more likely to have more than three accessory buildings, they have the space for it. When you start getting into some of the smaller residential districts, the tighter neighborhoods where you probably would be more concerned with having an abundance of buildings, just based on setback alone, it might stop you.
Correct.
So,
So,
Section code. 20-21 that allows maximum coverage of everything district. And most of them, they get in commercial, industrial, limited industrial, at 25%. And those larger ones can get much 30%.
but I mean, some of these lots are. I mean, there's some acreage to cover.
Yeah, but what they're saying, you've got a lot of acreage, 30% of that.
Right, but not here, we can't with the three. Right. So it's already covered essentially is what you're telling us as far as.
Saying that there's a code
To a
section
point.
that in the dimensional requirements, it tells you what you can have per.
lot size.
Per district,
Yeah.
and then you've got the variance.
Right.
So to that point, why do we restrict the amount of buildings?
That's what I was saying. We're on page 17.
Don't really have a problem with the amount, but. I think of that house on Phelps Road,
I
and
know,
it's like, how the heck did that come about?
I know.
Still, with the variance.
If they were all in the back, what difference would it make? But the way they are, it's like,
I understand.
Right.
I know. So what do we want to do
four?
there? What's that?
Four? I don't know.
I don't know. I
mean, it's still subject to those other
guess,
limitations.
yes, it is.
I really don't think the number matters as long as they're placed halfway decent. If they're all out behind the house and nobody knows about it,
Right, that's why. But at this point, even without the restriction. And number 2, it says no such accessory building shall be placed nearer to the front lot line than the principal building.
there you go.
We can just get rid of the limit, we could just say for C, following, limitations shall apply and not have any limit whatsoever on the number of these. That's what the zoning book wants.
How do we feel about that?
Sorry.
I'm fine with that also.
Would you maintain the
Take a
lot coverage?
CO.
Yeah.
Well, that's elsewhere in the code.
Right, but
Yeah.
I mean, we're taking the number 3 out, but we would still be governed.
By the coverage percent.
25%
Yeah.
line.
Right.
I'm just asking because we got to enforce it.
Okay,
The next one I have is in that same page, so we got rid of C, then we go 1, 2, 3. No such accessory structure in total shall be larger than 25% of the square footage of the principal building. For habitable floor area of the residence upon such lot, or 2%. Of the lot size, whichever is larger, I guess. In no case shall all accessory buildings in total exceed 5,000 square feet in gross floor area. Square footage of the principal building or habitable floor area shall include all floors at or above ground level. I think we talked about this a little bit before. I wasn't really comfortable with the 25%.
That's kind of small.
Right,
Well, typically in almost all cases, except for very small lots, the 2% of lot size is
the max,
is larger than
okay,
the house limit.
Whichever is larger.
yes,
Okay.
yeah,
The idea behind 25% of a small lot is supposed to be residential, and residential lots are supposed to look residential, unlike a business.
Yes.
Right.
That's the whole purpose behind the limitation.
so,
Only applies to very small lots.
Right. And it does have that out at the end of that sentence, or 2% of the lot size, whichever is larger.
So
Yes.
remember, I prepared a spreadsheet and a chart of all the results that showed all the conditions under which these different factors come into play. And I handed that out.
is you guys think 5,000 square feet? I mean, that's your set max.
That was the next number I was gonna, I mean, so if you were on a 5 acre lot and you were 2% of that. You know what I mean? The 5,000 just seems a little small if you're on a 5
A larger lot.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking too. Cause 5,000, I mean,
Yeah,
it's 50 by 100.
what the hell you building?
I know,
Residential, remember?
in residential, yeah, we're talking residential zones
Right,
here.
that's what I'm saying, residential, if you put a horse barn up, you're in the agricultural. All right, horse barn, riding ring, I can see big barn, but 5,000 is a pretty good sized building for a residential
Accessories.
accessory building. And I got, back up, I wanna back up a little bit when we get to it, but
I just don't know that we need, but for me, if I had a 50 by 100. And I got a camper, I got a boat, I got a couple jet skis.
still got,
I want to have room to work on my truck in there.
still got room.
You think
We're
so?
putting a 50 by 100 up right now at work,
Yeah,
that's big.
Yeah,
You don't
that's
think so,
huge.
but it's,
That's
that's a
huge.
big building.
That's
Yeah.
huge. 100 feet.
It's one of those dome tents. But no.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
talking residential
That's how you put all your
areas.
campers in there, you put all that in there,
Alright.
even a couple motorcycles you can put in there.
take your word for it.
They could
To
always
me-
apply for a variance if they wanted to exceed the 5,000.
Correct,
And that would be an area variance, I believe. It's
Yeah.
not a different use, it's
Right.
just a side.
if anybody needed
I
to
got
exceed
a
that.
question on the accessory building. What's our law now on the accessory building? You don't have a house, you can't build one unless what?
Plus your agricultural or a professional agriculture, or you've got club.
Or what was that?
Club.
A club?
Yeah.
What defines a club?
Well, we've got
Rip
that
directors.
situation right now, where an individual, became a not-for-profit organization, took out the legal paperwork and established a trail riding club. And that's allowing him to put a barn on a vacant piece of property.
I know the situation, that's why I'm asking this question, because I know in the past, we've had people wanna put up, they bought land, wanna put horse barns up, and they were
If
turned
it's
down.
agricultural, they can. Because I had the gentleman over on East River Road who was a bee farmer.
Yeah.
And he proved that he's got over $10,000 a year in sales. And he was allowed to build a structure, a fence. He's got a little water
Water
tower
tower.
over there. And, because it's agricultural, we let him do it.
Okay, cause I know they turned this guy down years ago. That's on East River, by coincidence, on East River Road too.
Well, the one right next door to this gentleman, it's half finished because he just started putting up a pole barn and he didn't have, it wasn't agricultural, he didn't have a club, and he didn't have a primary residence, so he was told to stop.
Right,
And it's sitting there half finished.
And if the one you're thinking of was years ago, well, we only made these changes in the last 2 years. For agricultural uses, so.
So, but this club deal. It's just supposed to be like the 4-H club or,
We don't, I don't know. do we-
But just as nonprofit membership club. It's very non-specific. In fact, I believe it would allow a YMCA. Which is
because it
fine.
sounds to me as it's skating around an issue.
That's my opinion, that
I
it does
think,
not belong in residential, and it's very unusual in other towns.
and I think it may have been done because you had a couple of situations where you had accessory buildings. Codified. You've got that one over next to, the septic place,
Burn balance.
burn balance.
Burn balance.
They were given a special, very, very specific, I remember that because I went to those meetings. Very specific that applies specifically to that operation there.
And the same.
And the
thing.
fact that, you know, where they were located, there were a lot of factors that the planning board considered in allowing and in granting a special permit.
Well,
It was
Woodruff-
very, so that if somebody else came in, you know, it's not accomplished, well, they do it. No, this was a very, very intentionally granted and very
Well,
detailed
and
spec.
This one that's on, Rush Scottsville Road went through the planning board process and was approved. As did the one on Woodruff Road.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it can be done if somebody wants to, you know, follow the steps.
Okay, cause I'm looking here, I go, okay, so there's a crack in the system. You know, that guy came in and got the club and got the okay to put the building up. Are we gonna allow other cracks, you know, for that guy with a truck that wants to park in a yard or the guy who wants to put up that 5th building? I'm just asking the question, I'm trying to be a smart guy up here, but
No,
you know, that guy with that club deal, I understand the circumstances. But if I applied for it, I still would be waiting. I wouldn't have got it.
well, I don't.
I understand the circumstances,
Yeah, I
but
mean, I can't speak to the other ones. I've seen this application. You know, and I don't think there were any shortcuts or anything else. Went through, you know, what do I need to do to put that building up without a primary residence? And he was told that if he established a club or if he was agricultural, he could do it. Because that's what the code allows. And I know he made application, he's got an engineer involved, he had to go and, you know, I don't think incorporate is the right word, but he had to establish that not for profit organization, you know, file paperwork, you know, he's followed all the steps that I'm aware of.
okay. So we want to allow that, keep that going.
Well, I just allowed another one, I put up a very large greenhouse for right next to the Chase one. And it's an agricultural building, he doesn't have a primary residence on that piece of property, so. Because it was agricultural in nature, he was allowed to put that big greenhouse.
But they were going to conduct agricultural activities,
Oh, yeah.
not just the storage.
No, right now, the last I was in there was 4,000 months being grown in that greenhouse. So,
Almost empty now. Getting there.
here I am talking to you.
Yeah, I don't know. I've talked about this before with these accessory structures on vacant property. Again, I think that there should be I think that they should be allowed with a acreage limit. Anything greater than 15 or 20 acres. I don't see why somebody can't have a building on there, just to store a tractor in or something like that to maintain the property.
It's agriculture.
No, I'm not talking, I'm talking about somebody that has, it may be a property that is used for ag, but they're hunting it. So the primary use for the landowner isn't agriculture, he just leases it. But he wants to have a building there to keep a tractor or whatever that he wants to drive back and maintain paths for deer hunting or something like that. And, you know, maybe doesn't have a trailer or a pickup truck or whatever to move it. He can get it there once and then it just stays there and that's what he uses it for, or a four-wheeler there. So it's not the first time I've said it. It's something that I just would like to, you know, you could put more of a restriction on it for the size of the building for a property like that if it made sense to you. But I just think that, you know, if somebody owns 30 or 40 acres and they want to use it for hunting or something like that, and they don't want to have to trailer a four-wheeler every time they go to this property or drive a tractor every time, they just want to drive their car there and get out, get in the building, get their tractor and go mow paths. And when they're done, blow the tractor off and pull it inside a building and lock it up and be done with it. It seems silly that we don't allow something like that, but that's my own.
And we went round and round and round.
I know we did, but I'm just.
On
I'm
that
bringing it up
topic,
to
and
you.
there were valid reasons why the town did not want to go that route.
I know,
That again comes back to the fact that these are residential lots.
I know.
Right,
Resident, is meant to look residential.
right.
The current definition of accessory building, a structure detached from and subordinate to a principal building.
And that's why I suggested having an acreage default on it. So you're in areas that would have larger plots. That's why I'm not saying that if you bought a lot that was approved for a house and it's 2 acres, so you go there and put a shed on it and then never come back and do anything. I'm thinking for people that own larger parcels of property that want to use them for recreation, I think that we should have a way for them to be able to store equipment and enjoy their property. But that's my opinion. And like Gene said, we've gone round and round on this already.
We have,
What were some of the reasons why not?
oh my God. I mean, as Scott mentioned, we're talking, you know, residential areas, and we made specific, you know, exceptions, you know, for agricultural use, lots of exceptions, you know, for agricultural use, and it was determined.
But that's all dictated by ag and markets.
Yeah,
anyways.
no, I know, but I'm just saying that the town recognizes that. And, you know, carved out special code sections to deal with agriculture. You know, to be very, you know, permissive in those instances, but not necessarily for everything. You know, again, we're talking primarily here, you know, residential areas that for whatever, you know, the board then, now, whatever, trying to preserve residential areas in the town of Rush as well.
I get it. I do, but I also see Dan's side when you're talking 15 acres.
Or Lark, that was just a number that I pulled out of the air. It's just a thought. Where do you stand on anything like that, Luther?
On your acreage,
Huh?
on your acreage,
On the idea of it.
Have an accessory building without a primary.
I don't have a problem with it, I just. I think when we start looking at unique circumstances to allow somebody to do something. I think we're kind of kidding ourselves. I'd rather go with Dan's format, of having so many acreage available, or somebody put up a building. Then come up with some special club operation that is probably nothing more than paperwork signed. That's my opinion. I'd rather, make it more fair for somebody in the same circumstances, not have to go through some BS. Or come up with a club, they have to build a building on their property. They're paying taxes on it, they're gonna pay taxes on a building that's gonna go up now. May not be as much as a house, obviously, but it's still going up. That's my opinion. I just think it's shady the way it got done.
Scott, don't we elsewhere, and I'm just trying to, this is triggering other memories, talk about hunting camps?
Got rid of it.
Yeah, that went away.
There was a line for a hunting cabin. There were no specifications on it as to what sanitary facilities it had to have. Why it wasn't a house, and didn't have to apply the same standards as a house residence. So we propose to get rid of it.
But I'm also not talking about a hunting cabin. We're not talking about.
And
living
you threw that
facilities.
out there, but,
Just a pole barn. Or some sort of
Or, yeah,
storage.
or a shed or whatever, yeah, and if we felt like we wanted to do it, then we, you know, What?
You'd have to call it something other than accessory building, because it wouldn't be an accessory.
it's not, yeah,
But-
attached to anything else or connected to anything else.
but if we were, regardless of what we decide to call it, I mean, then we'd have to determine what our acreage would be.
Yeah.
And
Circumstances when it would be allowed.
what's that?
Circumstances that it would be allowed.
You'd have to decide what you're gonna call it and come up with a definition for it.
I know, and we haven't included that in anything that we've gone through 6 times already in this whole
We've talked
25,000
about it.
pages.
There's gotta be other towns that allow it, though. I mean, you look at some of the towns to the south,
Yeah.
Canisius, Avon,
Yeah.
you know, Springwater, I mean. There's plenty of property around with just a barn or a shed or something on it.
Right.
There's gotta be some sort of language
Well-
out there.
Before we wrap this up, come up with something on it. See, I can look into it and see. Try and present something, you can look at it and see, and if yes, no, and
Mhm.
throw it out, I don't know.
Okay. But we don't have enough in front of us, I think, to
Not right
think
now.
about the variables
Yeah.
and why it could be acceptable or not.
Right. Where are you? What page are you on, Luther? 18, see?
18.
Go
Page
on, go
18,
towards junk or unusable vehicles.
I don't know, I just. I can see, you know, junk vehicles,
Page 18.
Page 18,
18.
letter C.
I can see, you know, we talk about. Rubbish debris prohibited, I get all that. But then we get down here with, farm equipment. Unrepairable. Some of this farm equipment can't be bought anymore, so you may have 2 of each, one working and one for parts. So I
Put it
think,
in a
Sheldon
barn, in
Chase
the
had
corner in the
Comments
barn.
about this. He said, that's not junk, that just needs a motor. An old bulldozer.
well, I'm just saying here,
And
it's
I'll
like,
get one.
I get that, it's everything's through a perception of what the heck
Yeah.
is what, but. I
It's
think,
got a tree growing up through it.
It's a small, one.
You,
we'll cut
you
it.
missed the last meeting, John and I,
same deal.
yeah.
You're a hedgerow junkyard. That's. what
Yeah.
I've got to, when, you know, there's a 1934 Macy Ferguson transmission there. You're not gonna use that for anything.
Got some gears in there, indeed.
Okay, all right. You
Put
have
it-
to convince me.
Put it in your barn or your basement.
All right, then.
I agreed with you on it, Luther. I mean, there is, but I can see where John's coming from, but again, I know that there's stuff that, you know,
Well.
right now I
what-
can't
what's
see
the
through the
saying?
weeds, but
One-
there's
One man's,
Yeah.
one's
that's right.
man's
John-
trash is
yeah,
another
but
man's
it-
treasure.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, we're talking about residential areas. You know, maybe somebody doesn't want to look at that. They don't see the beauty in that old.
I
you know.
We're back in the farming though. We're back into the egg.
I know.
Well,
It's,
No, we got. No, I know I got 2 sprayers. One we use it constantly, the other one we use for parts. And we got,
but
Or
where
just,
is
you
it?
know.
Is it on your front lawn?
Hmm?
Is it in the front lawn?
well, it depends how you look at it. If you don't have 15 acres, We can see about If you drive down Kai's Road, it's behind the barn.
My drone out, can I?
So you know, it's your perception. Where do you want to look at it from?
When you live in a triangle.
You know? I just think that there's, that one there, we need a little bit of bumper room in there. I mean, it doesn't have to be crazy. Obviously, an old farm truck, nobody's gonna fix up an old farm truck. Either it's junk or you're gonna replace it with a newer one. But some of the older equipment, farm machinery, you know, it doesn't have the windows, it doesn't have, you know, it doesn't look like a rotting truck or a rotting car. I think that kind of has its own description. But, you know.
Well, it says it
Maybe,
doesn't.
maybe
it-
if that equipment hasn't moved in 30 years, that maybe, that's a good example with junk too, but. Just. Like to see a little bit of easement on farm equipment.
I mean, we've had a lot of this stuff in the code for a long time, so. We extended it from 30 to 90 days of this use. You know, and it says that this chapter shall not be construed to prevent the storage of unlicensed vehicles in private garages upon the premises of the owners thereof. So I mean, so if you got stuff, put it away, put it in the barn till you're ready to fix it up.
I could build bigger barns. 50 by 100.
Well, maybe you could, because you have an agricultural, different
Yeah.
rules, different rules.
Simplest fix maybe this is where that single red add sentence says junk around usable farm lot, but junk. Just get rid of that. Then you can claim that it's not junk, it's parts.
I agree with that, Scott. That sounds. You do that.
Okay. Progress.
Gene, I don't even think we've gotten to the hard part.
Yeah, I know, I
Yeah.
know. I'm gonna get ready to move on.
We're making progress, so we are going through it.
I only had one other thing, and this was something one other thing, and then I think we're gonna tackle more of our what is gonna take some thinking, more thinking. When it came to we were talking about the dogs and at one point, and I said that I was going to reach out to Mike Zora, our animal control dog warden. And I did do that. I spoke to him and I said that, you know, we were looking at a proposal from the code committee about restricting the number of dogs that a person could own in the town of Rush. And without having to be considered a kennel and get a permit. And he told, and I asked him if he thought that that was something that was necessary, if there was a lot of issues. And he said that he didn't have any issues that would warrant limiting the number of dogs that people owned. He said that typically a pet owner that is a terrible pet owner is going to be a terrible pet owner, whether they have one dog or 5 dogs. And he didn't think it was necessary at all for us as a town to limit the amount of dogs that a resident could own. So, and that's kind of what I was thinking. But I know that we had a little bit of pushback. I also talked to him about his ability to enforce what he's doing, his job. And he said that a lot of it is either it comes from the state or whether it's a noise ordinance or something like that. He said that this doesn't give him any more authority or any more power to enforce anything than what he's already working with.
So the 18 dogs on 5 Points Road is okay according.
He said that that's, again, he goes, aside from that thing, he hasn't really, that's the biggest thing that he's had to deal with. He said for the most part, that falls into, again, he's got somebody that potentially is, I don't know if the dogs are mistreated or if they're healthy or if, who knows, maybe they're all healthy And I don't know if there's a noise thing, but if it's a noise thing, Mike said, then he can take care of it if that's what the issue is. But
Did, that said, when they came in to register the dogs, they didn't know which ones were vaccinated, which ones were born when.
that's a poor dog owner, in my opinion.
Again,
Right, no, I get it, but again, I don't think that that's every dog owner. I think you could have people that had 4, 5, 6 dogs and they would be able to tell you exactly what their vaccination schedule was and
again, don't have to justify it.
I know, but okay.
What's Mike's recourse then against the
Yeah,
18 dog?
Well, if there's like a noise problem or something like that, then he can go in and enforce
and
a
then he
noise
said,
issue.
and do what? You still got 18 dogs walking.
Well, and if it keeps going, then they'll have to remove the dogs. But I don't, but if it's something that they can resolve either with a different way of housing them where they're not heard or I live not very far from there and I have not heard dogs barking out of control. I haven't, I don't, I don't know, maybe the wind's blowing different,
Yeah,
but
could be.
I'm out at,
But people
different
over
times
there
of-
do have a problem.
I guess maybe there is one person, I don't know.
That's what I'm told.
But-
That there's people have problems over there, so.
Well, I guess I could, Mike. From this is what Mike told me, is he doesn't have enough of an issue with the majority of the residents in the town where he thinks it's something like this needs to be on the books. So,
So are we talking, well, okay, that's in the dog section.
this is,
In the
yeah,
back, toward the back.
it's
Yeah.
page 1 in the animal section, which is mostly dogs.
Like the last 10 pages.
Right.
Yeah, so if we do want to get rid of that. We may need to make a choice, we may need to make a change to what we consider a kennel, is on the very top of that
Any
page.
building or lot
Okay.
on which 4 or more domesticated animals
Yeah,
more than 4 months of age are housed, groomed, bred, trained, and boarded.
I don't, if we're gonna do that, then a kennel would be. You take out the 4 or more. It would just be. Where. Domesticated animals are kept for more than 4 months. Or older than 4 months of age are housed, groomed, bred, trained, boarded. Including animal shelters and where animals are housed and offered for adoption. I don't know if there would have to be something in there where like money is exchanged for a boarding, like as being a kennel.
Oh, some of those rescue people, they almost do it for free. I mean,
Right. But I don't think we need to limit the number of dogs that people have, but if we do that, then we need to do something with what is considered a kennel.
Well, commercial kennel, Scott said,
And then,
if you do,
I would have to look and see, I'm not sure where I'm not sure, I don't think that kennels do, but I would have to look into it. I haven't seen anything, but I guess I haven't really searched specifically for kennels, so I know Ag and Markets has something to say as far as, like for dog, like for housing dogs, like for the town, right? That's Ag and Markets comes
yeah,
in.
maybe there was
but that
some
might-
update for that incident up there from Ag and Markets, and an awful lot to see.
Okay. So yeah, maybe I would have to look into it more to see what's into it. I haven't, I guess kennels wasn't something I really looked into, but.
Fine, kennels as commercial. If you go back R30, on page 11. The allowed use with a, putting permit is commercial work stables and dog kennels. Okay. Keyword being commercial. Admittedly, there was an attempt to broaden that to individually have dog dogs because of the situation, the person who had lot and was using them for adverse conditions. But if you want to keep it relative to commercial kennels, I think it's still useful having the code and expanding it the way we did. It could be just defined as commercial kennels. Commercial being essentially any sale of an animal or service that is advertised or to exchange, results in exchange of funding. We could do that. By the definition of commercial.
That was Greece.
Page 3 in the animal section. Keeping that, but we have it. There is historically a lot of sensitivity to dog kennels in residential areas.
Yes.
Think about. My experience in planning board, we rejected more than we approved due to protests from would-be neighbors.
Yep.
So are we comfortable with not having a limit?
Yes.
And then we'll move that to commercial kennels, but keep that there.
Where were you talking? I'm not sure.
So page 1 of the animal section,
Yeah.
Page 1 of the animal section.
where it says kennel, we change that to commercial kennel.
Mhm.
Have to essentially get rid of the red line on 2/3 of the way down on page 1. So that gets rid of the
3 dogs. Does that go away to that?
Mhm.
personally owned dog.
Show me no more than 3 licensed dogs.
Yeah. Get rid of that.
So why did we even further restrict it in our last conversation? We had 4 and we moved it to 3 because we had issues that night.
I wasn't here that day. I'm not kidding. I mean, I
Everybody
wasn't, or else I
yeah.
would have spoke up. I wasn't.
Yes, I didn't realize how many people were talking to people, how many people have 5, 6 dogs. I right down the road for me and I would never known it, never hear them.
Yeah, I can think of an elderly neighbor that has 3 and one's on their way out and probably will get another one, so.
And anyway,
But I do know that you got the 18 dogs, so you got the other side of the coin, so. If our dog catcher can do something about it, we got laws on the book that he can enforce.
In the conversation I had with him, I directly asked him, I said, do you have a good way of managing this or dealing with this? And he said, he goes, yup, he goes, I have avenues of policing this. He goes, and this won't help me. He goes, basically what you're gonna have here is just
More laws.
more laws that people aren't gonna follow if you do it. Is pretty much his exact words to me. He goes, a bad dog owner is gonna be a bad dog owner, whether they have 2 dogs or 8 dogs. It's just,
Yeah.
it's the way it is. So that's
So
pretty
what
much,
is the recourse if there's a bad dog owner?
I get, yeah, you would have to talk to Mike. Mike said that he has ways of handling complaints with dogs. If there's violating a noise ordinance or something like that, or odor, he said that he said that he has avenues to do it. I guess you'd have to dig into it more with him about exactly how he does it, but he said that he has ways of doing it. He has teeth if he needs to enforce something. Was essentially what he told me. I didn't really get into what exactly those steps were, but he said that he had ways of doing it.
So why did we say 3 dogs, Dan?
Well, I had 3 dogs at the time. Now I have 4.
So you want to increase it because your dogs are perfect.
No.
Your dogs
Pat,
don't
you-
bark.
You need a dog?
I don't.
The code committee actually initially said 4 dogs, and we kicked it back.
Yeah. And I wasn't here in that June meeting when that was discussed.
But there was some discussion at that time why didn't want to have. I'm just saying, like, we're going back and forth, we're not making any progress, and we covered that. Everybody at the time was
And
good.
then the last meeting, when I was here, we brought it up again, and I said that I would talk to Mike and see what his thoughts
the
were on
input
it,
from
and
Mike.
that's what I did.
I agree with the input from Mike.
And I only have 1 dog, Gene, and I still think that we don't need a limit on them.
All right,
Well,
That's-
I'd like to think about it. Because we're clearly not gonna finish this up, but I'd like to get on to other things if we might.
Yeah, that's all the littler nitpicky stuff that I had. So,
It is?
yes, for now,
We pass the rest then?
for now. Oh, who wants to? What do we want to do? How do we want to go about? Where we left off the last time, I guess, was we were talking about
Major home occupation.
major home occupations and that we have several businesses in the town, throughout the town, all over that have been here for a long time. And the way that this law is written, and at least the way that I understand it, is that if we were to pass this residential code, the way it sits right now, that those businesses would not be compliant and they would have to comply. Or that's,
Move to a commercial
or
or
move to a
limited
rec-
industrial zone,
which
which we have.
I could only imagine how much fun it would be to relocate a whole business after you've spent 30 years building it or 70 years building it and say, yep, this is what we're gonna do.
Well, I happen to know of one of those businesses that was given a special permit and the understanding it would be 5 years each, and we're like way beyond that. And they truly belong in a commercial zone, but yet it goes on and on and on. And they were given a special permit by the planning board. I remember I went to the meeting. And, but yet they're still operating at their residence, and it's just wrong. It's wrong for the town, it's wrong for the neighborhood. And I'm not trying to drive anybody out of business or anything, but you're talking, you come and you're making your plea with the planning board to allow them to operate a major business. It's not, I wouldn't even say home occupation. It's a commercial business going on. And it's just wrong in a residential area. I disagreed with the planning board at the time, but they approved it with a special permit, and the whole discussion was that it was temporary.
What about,
They're still there.
what about businesses like, what about like the Rotary Sunshine Camp? Is that considered a business or is that fall under some
No.
sort of special condition that?
That's not a That's-
Club?
a club or something, and it was there forever.
Does it? Well, yeah, so have a lot of these businesses have been here forever.
Yeah, but
I,
that's not a commercial business.
I bet it's Rotary Sunshine Camp in the summertime has more traffic coming down 5 Points Road than any of these commercial businesses do.
Well, so on page 11, under R30, one of the things that's allowed with a spectrum is number 5, facilities established and operated by nonprofit institutions for charitable, cultural, community social purposes, including accessory uses thereof, such as restaurants or other food facilities, primarily for persons using the facilities. So that specifically was added for Sunshine Camp. Okay, and there was something similar previously about properties. So sunshine is covered. But let me be very clear about what this proposal means, changes. So we proposed nothing, the code committee proposed nothing that is stricter than what already exists in the code. In fact, we offered up the major home occupation originally with 2 non-resident employees and parking with special permit that did not exist before. We offered a bed and breakfast. If there's a problem and you're concerned about businesses that exist now that would not exist under the new law, that is not because of the new law. That's because the current law has never been enforced. So don't blame code committee for making anything harder on existing businesses. In fact, we proposed a rather novel way to allow and meet the code. Burn down specifically, brush gravel specifically. And two gun clubs, or one's county gun club and Rochester Brooks Gun Club. And as well add in the RC car racing group that's now under the what's it called?
They have a
Club-
special,
club.
they have a
permit,
special
so they're
permit.
covered anyway, so-called brand. But we proposed a way creating 2 new RRC districts, what we call rural residential commercial districts, to cover those major businesses. Now, it's not possible, in my view, practically, to cover everything that might exist out there. But it's not because what the code committee did, it's because the code was never enforced.
Correct. And I think creating new zones is very problematic, you know, when for one-offs. We have an issue with spot zoning, which is illegal. And I can go into that in depth, you know, if you want, and I probably will anyway. But getting a special permit allows that particular business to do their, whatever their business is, if they are granted a special permit under the parameters of what's allowable through the planning board. And then if they leave or they go out of existence, that special permit is gone. And it reverts back to just whatever residential land. You create a new zone, we've created a you know, some kind of permanence. And that's just wrong. That's just wrong. These are residential areas. How about placing priority on residential areas and not these one-offs? We have ways of dealing with one-offs, with variances, with special permits, which they have. Some of these businesses have special permits. And if they leave, that special permit is over. That's done.
So is that not happening?
That is what is happening, and I'm saying I firmly reject the idea of creating a rural residential zone, you know, and because then you've created a permanent location for a business inside a residential zone. And that, you know, I'll fight tooth and nail on that one. Because we're here to protect residential zones. And you know, and allow certain things, but you cannot. We have commercial zones. Anybody, you know, expanding beyond, you know, Burn Valens come in today and something like that. You know, look, I use them too. I like them. I like the business. I'm not trying to create a problem, but you know, if that changes or they, you know, move or get sold or something like that, that should go to a commercial zone. We've got land in existing commercial zones here in the town of Rush. It's available. We've got space for commercial, true commercial businesses.
I could just explain a little bit more. There is no ability of the planning board to buy a special permit for a business in a residential area. The only thing that exists on the code is the ability to park commercial vehicles. You get a special permit to park commercial vehicles. which never made any sense because you can't have a business there in the first place. So
But why did they allow it in the past?
They were giving out some permits for parking.
No, a business.
Well, Bill, when I was on the town board before, back in 2000, Bill Dishes wanted to eliminate the spot zoning.
Yes,
So all the permit, people that held special permits had to come through planning and decide, because there was every 5 years, had to come in every 5 years, and said, we're gonna do away with it. So I don't know, I have the exact year, maybe 2000, 2001. It was right in that area. All the businesses at that time, they were under special use permit.
correct.
They came in and either they got, I think only one or two got denied and everybody else got approved for the duration of that business. So it goes
So-
away at the end. If
Correct.
I'm one, right? My son takes it over, he keeps it going, he can keep going with it. But once it's done, that's it.
Correct.
Now, I don't know what has transpired since that has happened until now, because obviously you got 20 years, 25 years there.
Well, a planning board can put conditions on things, like under the parameters that we're talking about now with home occupations. Which didn't exist, is that correct? It did not exist in the code before. We're expanding the code and allowing more than we have before, but there are restrictions because let's come back to the purpose of this whole meeting tonight is to discuss residential code. So we need to keep that your overall arching, topic here and stop getting off track and talking about businesses. We have done a lot to expand what's permitted in a commercial zone, a limited industrial, mixed use hamlet. Oh my God, we have really, really spent a lot of time to make things more possible in the town of Rush. And let me just tell you this, by, talking about allowing more businesses or more than one employee, or if you want to go down that road, and I say we cannot do that. That is changing the nature of a residential district, a residential area. We've got commercial areas, we've got limited industrial areas. If it's going to be a big business with things coming and going, it needs to be in a proper zone and not in a residential zone. And I'll fight for that one, I'll keep you here all night. I'll read, I'm just saying, we've got to, go ahead, sorry. Okay. We've got to make that our top priority. You talk out of both sides of your mouth in a way, and I'm sorry, but you do. Because on the one hand, you talk about, God, we got to expand, we've got to, expand our tax base.
I agree.
You agree with that, right?
We need to.
But
expand
then
our
you
tax-
allow some of these businesses, commercial businesses that are happening in residential areas, they're not paying more taxes to the town. They're still paying the residential tax. It's coming, operating out of their house, but they got trucks coming and going. We're not expanding the tax base by allowing that. The town has created zones where it has said, this is where we want this activity. This is where we want this activity. Very specific. Do you know what this book is? Do you know what this book is? What is this book?
That's a comprehensive plan.
It is. And you should always have that with you as a board. And we're talking about, do you know what the preamble to the zoning all of the zoning laws is? This is under title authority purposes. Right off the beginning, you talk about zoning. The regulations contained in this chapter have been made in accordance with a well-considered comprehensive plan for the development of the town of Rush and are designed to lessen congestion in the streets, to secure safety from fire, flood, panic, and other dangers, to promote health and general welfare, to provide adequate light and air, to prevent the overcrowding of land, to avoid undue concentration of population, and to facilitate the adequate provision of transportation, water, sewage, schools, parks, and other public requirements. These regulations have been made with reasonable consideration, among other things, as to the character of each district and its peculiar suitability for particular uses, and with a view to conserving and stabilizing the value of land and buildings and encouraging the most appropriate use of land throughout the town. This is our law. This is where it starts off. This is what you should be referring to because it is very specific. You know where our zones are. Do you know where that we have a zoning map that says where all these things are? We've got dedicated space in the town of Rush for business. We are going beyond that to allow for some modification within reason to operate some business out of your home. But when it exceeds those thresholds, you belong in one of these other districts. This is what the town wants. This is what the town wants. You two know this by heart. You were on the comprehensive committee. And this is what we do. This is what we're doing here in the town. The town has said this is what we want, loud and clear.
And when that comprehensive plan was done, a lot of these businesses that are there were obviously there and they'd been there for a long time. And as I said before, I am not going to vote on anything that is going to shut those businesses down. Scott, I know you didn't write the code to shut them down, but the way that it's structured now, and I guess it was never there before, but as Luther said, a lot of these businesses went in front of the planning board, they got approved, and that was good until they went out of business.
Right.
And if that's the case, then I guess those businesses are protected. If it's not, then I think we need to do something similar to that again. And do kind of a similar thing where they go in front of the planning board, get approval to operate those businesses, and they are good until that business expires. That's what I would suggest we do with it.
If they meet the parameters that we're talking
We
about.
can't, they're
here-
never gonna meet these parameters. They've been structured or they're not. And if they were approved before and the business was allowed to get to where it's at, then you can't turn around and go back and punish them for it now. So I think we need to look at it. Again, for me personally, I live in that area of town where a lot of these businesses are.
Yeah, and
And
I'm near some too.
I have not heard anything about it. I honestly, most of those small business, or they're not giant corporations, but they're larger businesses. They go out of their way to help the community and help the neighborhood and do stuff for people. They bend over backwards for them, and they're great neighbors. And I haven't heard anybody complain about them. Maybe I'm missing something, but I think that if nothing else, and we don't want to allow more businesses like that outside of the commercial zones in town, we need to come up with a solution to protect the ones that have been established and are there. And
Some may already be operating. I know some are operating under special permits. They have already made that case. They have a special permit to operate.
right, and I think
And, there's some that, I think they're an issue, but I don't know. I didn't look up all the potential businesses that don't have a special permit in the town. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But I'm not going to say that we carve out a special zone for these existing
well,
businesses.
and this is my way around, because I agree with you. I know we talked at the last meeting. I was not really for that rezoning originally. The more I thought about it, the more I was like, well, it does make sense. But it also crossed my mind, and you brought it up at one point, whether it was at last meeting or I know you brought it up tonight, is to do that is most definitely spot zoning.
Yep.
And that's illegal.
That's correct.
So at this point, that's not an option.
Yeah.
So take that right out of it.
Okay, thank you.
Because it's not feasible.
Right.
Not to say that I don't think there's areas that don't have businesses that potentially we could put something like that in. But I also think that we need to come up with a solution to protect some of these businesses. I don't think that we should. I don't want to be the person that says, hey, we know that you've been able to do this for this many years and you've been able to grow your business. You're successful. You know, it looks like you're doing a great job, but hey, not here anymore, bud. Pack it up and get out. You don't fit this. I don't want to, we
I am
need to
not,
come up.
I am honestly not trying to say that we kick existing longtime businesses that existed well before we talked about, or well before the town may have even had any of this codified.
I think it boils down to really is the
But
large
the-
scale, the major home occupation of this whole gist of things kind of needs to go away.
No, I don't mind that major home occupation because I think there's a space for stuff like that in town. There's for, you know, some of these, like that's for like a small business where, say, you ran just because my family owns a flower shop. Let's say I wanted to start a small flower shop out of my house where I just did a couple little bouquets. I had, you know, maybe one commercial vehicle, and had 2 non-resident employees that worked for me. That would be allowed, where right now, you're not allowed to do that the way the code is. You can't run a little business like that.
That's right.
So I'm not opposed to the major home occupation. I just think that if maybe, like I said at the last meeting, maybe we need to come up with a different thing where you have a minor home, a major home, and then maybe you have, I called it like a maybe like a major property or a property occupation for some of these larger, you know, larger properties that have some of like, could facilitate having a little bit of a larger business, like maybe a larger landscape type business or something like that, where you could allow something like that. That was my thought, but Scott said at the last meeting there that you hadn't seen anything like that to this point. But I thought, well, you know, we're expanding with the minor home occupation. We got a major home occupation, and I think those are both good things. But I kind of was thinking, well, I'm looking at some of these properties, and it's like, well, why couldn't I have a small landscaping business if I had, you know, a property that I could, you know, keep stuff on? It was nice, it was neat. Why couldn't I get a truck and a trailer and a few lawnmowers? I mean, I could think a couple of them right now that, I mean, you wouldn't know if you drove by and saw it, but I can think of one young man that's doing pretty good for himself and started his own little business, him and his 2 brothers, and they're doing all right, and they're in a little residential area, or it's not dense but it's a residential area, and I don't see why we would want to deter something like that, but that's just me. You know,
Because it's a resident, where do you draw the line? We're talking residential neighborhoods here.
well, that's why
If you've got trucks and employees, it's time to move to an appropriate zone.
and that's why I thought, you know, maybe if we had like a different thing, like a minor or major home occupation, but then you came up with something where it was for people that had larger properties, and even though it kind of drives me nuts a little bit, and we've got, you've said it a couple, they're like, it's residential. Yeah, but some of these R30s, these residential, they got 70 acres and there's not much around them. It's like, well, who the heck is that hurting? You know, and it's like, so I don't know. I think that there's a room and there's a way to come to a solution on it potentially.
Yeah, it's moved to a commercial zone.
I
We have a place to do it.
know, and
The town has spoken. The town, this is not just me. 1,000 people in our town responded to a survey specifically addressing this.
They said, we do not want any businesses in the residential district is what that response was.
Pretty much, they want
They
the
want,
top priority, go back and read the.
I will, I don't recall anyone being like, nope, no
Oh,
businesses.
we're talking overwhelming to however many survey questions were on, were the overwhelming, overarching theme was rural residential agriculture, not commercial businesses in residential zones. No.
Well,
I think,
There was part of the survey that was a little bit interpreted a little bit different than actually appears in the comprehensive plan as far as expanding services around the town. I don't have my copy with me, but
well,
it's in there and it's like 65% were more in favor of some expanded commercial industrial areas.
Yes, they
in
did.
town.
And they said specifically around the hamlet, which we did. We created a mixed use, hamlet,
And I said
allow
during the
that.
meetings, and I'll say now, development in the hamlet is limited. Especially when it floods every 5 years. I don't know what we think we're gonna.
Well,
put
there
in
are
here.
things to be addressed, but I don't know why
State says
this
our
board
culvert is
or any board is
perfect
not
and
pulling in the landowners of the old big M and the house north of it, get them together. The developer who bought the 2 church properties, get them in, like, let's have a meeting. I'm getting off track here, but why aren't you calling them in to say, like, what's your plan for these properties? We changed the zoning to permit a whole lot of things in our hamlet. They need to be brought in and made part of the solution for doing what people would like to see in this hamlet. But,
what if we were to take this major? I mean, to me, the major it allows multiple vehicles and more people in it. It's still only down 500 square feet in a house. I mean, who's gonna take half their house or a quarter of their house? To make a business out of it, Maybe kind of blend that into the major, small, and then have a very limited agricultural style, something like what Dan's talking about, which is got 100 acres around us. My nearest neighbor's 1,200 feet away, or 1,000 feet, or a half a mile. Up there, maybe we could put a landscape business, or you could, and I don't mean retail sales. I'm just saying, the guy's got a couple mowers, couple guys, works for him. But I think not residential, we automatically think of Middle Road. We think of April Lane. When you say residential, that's what I think.
well, I think my road is residential. And
Well, some
we all have pretty
points of
big
it.
lots there, but I think it is a residential neighborhood.
Basically, it is. There's a lot
Yeah,
of
it
houses,
is.
right?
Yep.
One after another.
Yeah, and I'm over 1,000 feet from my neighbor. Set way back.
I'm just saying, so maybe we can look at this a little different. So step back and look at it.
But we're allowing things that are not allowed currently. We're providing for some, little bit extra to get you going, but we're not trying, no one wants to expand a commercial enterprise in residential areas. We have dedicated zones and everybody says the majority of the people in this town did not want to have commercial enterprises in residential zones. They're happy with the zones that we have. They were looking for, like, how do we, yes, we want to expand some things, but we really, really want to expand the hamlet, bring businesses into the hamlet. This is what people have said. And we changed the code to permit that. So now let's make it happen, people. This is what the people want. They're
Well-
not looking to open,
Got that. We got that. And then the code committee came back with this. We didn't come up with it. The code committee says. this is
and we're
what the
saying,
code-
and this is what we're saying. We're within reasonable, within a reasonable definition, a parameter of what would be acceptable to have in a residential area. Some home occupations would be permitted where they're not permitted now. We're saying permit certain things, one employee, non-resident employee. You know, and that would be, you have to have at least 5 acres, you know, to do that. You're starting off doing something, you know, but if you're gonna be bigger than that, you really, it's not appropriate for a residential zone. This doesn't exist. We're expanding our zone, our residential. This does not exist. We're expanding. But we can't be, you know, an all out, whatever, everything goes. We're talking residential neighborhoods. in the
Right,
town
that's
of
exactly
Rush.
what I'm saying. You're talking Maple Lane, you're talking Five Points Road, you're talking Middle Road,
Right,
okay?
and everywhere else in the town. That's not commercial, that's not mixed use hamlet, that's not limited industrial. We have dedicated zones and people are happy with that. And that's where they want the new development, commercial development to be. They're very clear on that.
So basically, you're all right with major home occupation.
I am within the revised parameters that we, you know, 1 employee, 1 non-resident employee maximum, 5 acre minimum, that's on the major home occupation. It's on page 20 if you want to read about that. You know, I didn't want to go there. I'm trying to compromise on something that may be acceptable. You know, when the way it was originally described, it was, you know, more employees and more of this, more of that, and you know, we've got to like,
This
no,
legitimizes- I mean, stuff's been going on at people's houses since probably Rush began. Everybody's always trying to make a little bit something extra. And doing stuff out of their houses. This just legitimizes it.
it
I think
does,
We should,
it does.
I think it's a good idea.
And I'm not arguing that it shouldn't be, I'm saying, but we have to have parameters. There's gotta be thresholds so that if someone, you know, says, oh, I can do this, thus and such, I can open up a business and have trucks and people coming and going. Well, no, we're not saying that. And they get hit with a violation. Because that's not where we're permitting these things in the town of Rush. We're trying to be reasonable, but the people have spoken about what they want to see in the town of Rush. And having, you know, commercial businesses in residential zones is not what people want. We have zones. And again, guys, you're talking about, you know, expanding the commercial zone and now you have commercial, you know, tax base, and you're fighting with me and doing everything that is not going to help the town. We're trying to attract business. We're doing everything. We've expanded everywhere.
I don't think that anybody's fighting with you. I agree that you're right. I don't want to see, you know, 20 dump trucks in my neighbor's yard.
Okay,
And I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
But I think to Dan's point, how do you help protect the businesses that have been here for a long time?
can we take that off the table? I don't think
Well,
anybody's going to kick any of those
Okay,
businesses
all right, so
out.
take that off the table, but I think the conversation that was, and to your point, I think we're focusing on those businesses specifically in looking at that region of town. We were losing track of this residential code is what, 90% of the town?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the focus of this conversation was geared towards the 5 Points Kavanaugh number 6 road district, like.
There was one other one I wanted to bring up.
Oh.
Not to interrupt you,
That's
but what about, there's what is it, 4 homes for mentally handicapped people that have more than 1 employee, commercial vehicles parked in there. Where do they fall in all of this?
There's a line at R30 for them.
In R30, what about R20? Because I think some of them are in R20.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not I'm not against what you're saying. And I can respect that, but and I know you keep saying, tell them to move to the commercial district, tell them to move, but then, so we're causing a hardship on them to move from where they're operating currently to buy property or lease property somewhere else.
They should think about it, but
I'm just,
if they are violating the terms of a special permit, I don't know. I didn't go research what permit restrictions or conditions are on anybody's special permit.
agreed. And again, I think the root of the conversation was geared so much towards one specific area in town that we were kind of losing focus that the work that we are doing here affects way more people than just that small little area.
Agreed.
So I think what we're doing is a good thing, but I think, you're trying to look out for everybody's best interest at the end of the day. And a lot of, special needs to be placed towards that.
Well, again, I don't think anybody is looking to single out current balance and saying you gotta leave. But if they change things, if things turn over, or if they are going to expand, well, maybe we have to have a conversation. I don't know. I'm not out to target existing things. We're moving forward. We're moving forward. But if someone is violating an existing special permit, well, they maybe better have a conversation. But if they're not, no one's looking to kick anybody out.
And I would hope that is not the intention of anybody sitting at
And
this
it's
table.
not, the intention is to codify what really is anybody looking to say, what can I do out of my house? Well, okay, I can do this, but if I cross that threshold, I gotta look at getting a storefront in the hamlet or whatever.
Yeah, I think with the minor and major home occupations, that a huge step going forward. I've said that right from the beginning. I agree with it. I am concerned with protecting businesses that were existing. And I didn't know if, and in my opinion, I think there is room in certain areas where there's larger tracts of land and things of that nature, where there is room for some larger business to be allowed. So I mean, that's just my take on it. I just thought that.
Well, it's zone residential. We have to keep that in mind. I don't care if it's, 10 acres or 150 acres. It's like, no, we have outlined where we want commercial businesses to take place. We have zones.
Even though we passed this law, I want existing businesses because they're before the zoning law. Grandfather.
I don't know the
fine
answer to
line,
that.
because-
I think that you would have to look at the status of what the permits. I don't know. You seem to you had a lot of knowledge on it because you went through it.
I went
25
through it.
years
That's
ago.
25 years ago, but the
Um,
business that started 24 years ago. And there today, which I don't know how many there are, I got no idea, but
Me either.
what happens, would they be grandfathered before that?
I think we need to come up with that's what I'm thinking is, that's why I said, I don't know if they need to go in front of the planning board again and maybe do sort of what we had done, what was done 25 years ago. And, they can, I don't know how the structure was or what it was like for you when you went in front of the planning board. If you said, this is what my business is, this is what I have, what your plan, I don't know what the structure was. but-
Well, that you had to come in and I was on a 5-year renewal. And everybody else that came in, we're all on a 5-year renewal. And you came in and the intent was to do away with all the spot zoning. It was gonna go away. You're gonna get a use permit. And that was it. That's good for the life of you,
A
of
special
your
permit.
company.
We did away with use permits. I think special use. Isn't
Yeah,
that correct?
and it was good for the life of you and your company.
Right.
Right, so my son takes it over, it's still active. As long as I don't move. If I move, if I take it over the rest of me on the road, then gone,
Right.
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So,
I
Um,
think you'd have to get Kevin's interpretation on that, because typically pre-existing non-conforming. I think you'd be hard pressed to tell somebody who's been operating for the last 10 years. Now you've got.
Well, we had, the whole hamlet was that way. We didn't kick anybody out.
No, but I don't know that we can say that, you know, we don't grandfather anything pre-existing. Kevin would have
I
to-
think I think
Yeah.
that is, yeah, we can't say grandfathering or something to that effect.
Right.
But the pre-existing
For
non-conforming,
clarification, there is still a section in the town code, and I can't refer to what it is because I don't have it in front of me. What had happened, what Luther's referring to happened at a time that the town used to have what was called a temporary permit. Temporary
Mm.
permit, not a special permit or special use permit, a temporary permit. And the town decided, and that was renewed at some frequency. The town decided to do away with those and go to a special permit, which is what the rest of the state does. And at that time, the people who had temporary permits had a certain number of months to get a special permit. Okay, and that is the way it went down, and it's still in the town code if you want to look for that section. It describes the date and time, it was a long time ago. And if they didn't get a temporary permit within that certain amount of time, they didn't get another one. Or if they didn't get a special permit to replace it. So that's what it was about, it was the disappearance of a temporary permit and the move to a special permit.
okay.
So I can't speak to the nature of the special permits that were given. Subsequent to that, though, once that time period expired, there is nothing in the town code to allow the planning board to issue a special permit for a business. They could issue a special permit for outside parking of commercial vehicles. The underlying assumption being there's a reason that those vehicles would be there, but there's nothing in the town code to give permission to have a business.
Scott, did you find out? Were you able to find that line on the?
Well, I could, if you search on temporary permit, I bet it would come up.
No, I'm talking about for the homes,
The group home.
the group home.
Oh,
Yeah, I thought there was something that's referred to state licensed.
I know, I remember.
Was there in there? I thought I saw it. Was it in 120 or 130 though?
It's probably in.
And I wasn't sure if
Did you
they were
find it?
through the
Did
state.
you find it?
It's bond standard, for the group home.
Yeah.
They get to go anywhere they want in the state will.
Yeah.
They and close to each other.
Okay.
I don't think the planning board had any process for licensing those. I think the state just did it.
State does it.
When we wrote the code up, I'm pretty sure we mentioned one of the allowed uses is state licensed group homes, but I just can't find it.
Okay. Yeah, I assumed it might have been something like, cause I drove by industry also today and they're putting up some huge thing and I was just like, geez, I don't even,
That's Monroe County.
That's
I
Kennedy.
would say.
right. So. I don't know, where do we stand on? I kind of spoke my piece, Gene.
As a beyond brush gravel and burn balance, what about the parameters for the major home occupations?
I
Things that would be allowed.
was fine with it, but I don't know if there was any,
We don't need to go through line by line.
I didn't have anything that stuck out at me, but I don't know.
I just, I mean, we're trying to move on.
Yeah,
It-
I mean,
If you.
I'm okay as, you know, after our last amendment back in June. Yes, it is 25 to 10.
Yeah. So that gets us through major.
Right,
Then we move to, well, garage sales, any problems with that?
I didn't have anything that stuck out at me. I reviewed everything quickly.
Sale of
Before the
produce in
meeting again.
residential districts on premises which are not primarily
where are you, 25?
page 25. Sale of produce in residential districts on premises which are not primarily agricultural in use.
I didn't see anything that really, it seemed pretty straightforward, I thought. I thought it was fine.
That moves us on to accessory apartments. And two-family dwellings.
Okay,
Almost to page 26.
we just started to talk about accessory apartments, two-family dwellings. Like we were okay with everything up to that.
Yes.
That's as far as we got.
Family dwellings.
There's one here. Cancellation of 24. The home occupation ceases operation or discontinued for a period of 3 months for any reason. I mean, it could be something the owner got sick and is gonna go to the hospital. I think it's okay to have it there, but maybe have reason behind it. Why was it shut down for 3 months? This guy's in the hospital, cancer, or something going on.
Page that.
4,
24.
number 4.
When somebody's worked to
At the
get there,
top.
then we're gonna put them out in 3 months. I don't necessarily agree with that. You're gonna allow this, let's give them some reason why.
Letter, page 24, letter
See,
No, well,
Under F,
letter, yup, under F,
F,
parenthesis 4.
I think if there's due reason somebody's out for 3 months. I hate to see it, build his business up and we're gonna put him out of business in 3 months because maybe he's in the hospital for some medical reason. Or who knows? But I think, maybe a letter or statement saying, hey, I'm gonna be shut down because I'm. Bad car wreck, I don't know. A justification letter of some kind. To come in. That'd be my only,
No, that's a good catch.
Yeah.
It could be like you could have like a home remodel or something going on for 3 months and not be able to be.
right, I
operating.
mean, it-
Could be something as simple as that.
we get a 500-year flood.
Could it be like,
1,000 year. No, that one's already.
discontinued?
I just wanna let that guy have a chance. To come to the town and say, hey, I'm gonna be out of work for 6 months because of this reason. And allow him to continue. Now, if he's just no letters, no nothing, then I get that, but. Give him that option. I think that's only fair, somebody to invest their time and effort into it.
I think the goal here was just not to have things lag forever. Somebody essentially goes out of business.
Right.
It would end, but whether it's 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months, I don't think it's that important.
I can't remember how he said.
He said whether it's 3, 6, or 12 months, it's probably not that. We could make it whatever time frame we wanted, if we wanted to make it longer or. Yeah, I don't know how you would word it, like an unexcused.
I think a
Unexcused
letter
cease of
statement of
operation.
what's going on,
Statement of hardship.
I mean, it could be, a guy, military call and he got called back in on active duty for.
Yeah.
Reserves. I mean, that's probably about the greatest example.
Yeah.
so how should we say that? 6 months or, yeah, it
Like
says
Derek said,
excluding
hardship, you
temporary
just put it-
off-season for seasonal home occupations, or we could put add on to there, or other reasonable, with you had the intent. Other reasonable,
Circumstances.
What if you put it, since you said intent, what if you said if the occupation ceases to operate for a period of longer than 3 months with no intention of opening back up? I don't know, something like
I
that.
would do it.
The only thing that might do is somebody can say, no, of course I intend on opening back
I
up, and
know.
it just keeps kicking the can down the road. So then maybe, like Derek said, maybe without proof of hardship but then if they're doing some kind of remodel, that's not really a hardship, but I guess it could be to the business, it's a hardship because it can't operate.
Well, they have to come and get a building permit to do the remodeling, or, you know,
Right.
I mean, there should be
No,
some checks
yeah.
and balances here
Right.
that back his story up. Their story, I should say him.
Or are the reasonable, reason for, you know, the temporary, is a temporary, I'm sorry?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. That sounds good.
Okay.
Well, that's about the only thing I saw. Everything else looked relatively.
All right. So we leave it at 3 months unless there's this
Unless they're
extenuating
reasonable.
circumstances why you had to interrupt
Right.
business.
Garage sales, all right, produce and residential districts.
Just one point, demonstration of hardship, I get it, I understand they tend, should we say demonstration of hardship to the CEO or something like that? There has to be a process. So
Yeah,
the person knows what to do. If it
Okay.
goes longer than 3 months, they're challenged, they can go to the CEO and say, well, this is what happened.
right,
Even if it's more than 3 months.
right.
Is that on the minor too? I mean, probably change one, may want to do the minor one too.
Where do we talk about that?
Well, maybe that's the whole thing. Oh, it is a minor, okay.
There's 60. We have to look in another section. Yeah. 20 days. Oh, minor home occupations, page 20,
22, yeah. See,
yeah.
That's where it falls.
Where are you looking?
If I could interrupt with one thing,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but.
Yeah.
I figured out where we okayed state-sponsored group homes. You have to go to the definition of family. So dwelling is for a family. Definition of family is one or more persons who live together in one dwelling unit and maintain a common household. This includes licensed group home in which residents share living, cooking, and sanitary facilities.
Thank you.
did you say that? That is under minor home occupations that?
Mhm.
Right?
I'm sorry, what is?
No, that Luther was made,
Yeah.
The 3 months.
yes. That is
Oh,
under
oh, oh.
minor.
It is there,
It is under minor,
okay,
because if you go back 2 pages,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
minor is just.
okay. Okay. We back on 25 now?
I thought we were on 26.
26.
Family
26.
dwelling.
Two family dwellings.
All right,
Minor's on 22. And then it follows on page 24.
Bed and breakfast.
We okay with the two family dwellings?
It's pretty straightforward.
Okay. So now with bed and breakfast, you're
Yes.
saying, okay. I think I was okay with all of that owner occupied kind of thing and the time frame, the number of days permitted.
We decided on 15.
15 days, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought.
Yeah, I think we talked about that and I don't think it was,
Short-term rentals are not permitted.
right.
Private airstrips, including heliports.
And, we have a lot of rules here. But we're saying we're not permitting any new ones.
Yeah, no new ones.
So where does it say that? Okay, so according to Scott's notes on page 30 on the private airstrips, Scott. The board decided to not allow new airstrips, so this proposal is based on managing existing airstrips.
What
So
about
we-
existing ones?
There are. There's at least two.
Is the one on Stony Brook still operating? I haven't heard anything about it.
Oh, yeah.
I just saw him going,
Oh,
I
yeah.
just saw him the other
It's in my
day.
backyard.
I thought I heard you say
I
that.
hear them all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was problems
Just-
before.
Gee,
I
it's,
thought he had gone away.
since
I
we're
heard
not
he was
allowing
there.
any new ones, all
Right.
these rules just
He's
apply
got a few.
to
I think
maintaining
so.
what
Heard
the
that
current.
just
ones are
before I
doing.
heard he sold it.
My brother-in-law was looking to buy it.
Oh, yeah. So we're allowing those two and no, that.
Yeah, so where
I'm
we
not sure
said it, so
some of
this
that-
has a lot of regulations or guidelines for airstrips, but it would only apply to existing airstrips.
Yeah, but some of your setbacks may not even apply because the airstrips are already in place, the ones paved. And I know he flies off the end and
He's
he's flying
right
off,
there.
he's flying right off the gravel pit, but he does not own. So we gotta be a little bit careful of our, because he can't maintain the ownership of that. He doesn't own that, he can't. That's,
We took that out.
I'm just thinking, I mean, he bought the property in front of his airstrip. cleared that, but on the back end, I don't think he owns that now. So the rear setback might be tough. So we may have to work with what they have on the two airstrips that I know about.
Would that fall under kind of what we were talking about with the other, like a pre-existing non-conforming, something like that, or?
Just keep in mind, to be pre-existing non-conforming, what people don't want to call grandfather, it has to have been legal previously, and then the law changed. This is not a case where they were legal previously. Okay, the law never allowed airstrips. So they would not be, they would not be pre-existing non-conforming.
Well, the law also never allowed businesses, and we just said that they could get pre-existing non-conforming.
Didn't,
Well, I don't think they can. Frankly, that they could have some special process. Pre-existing non-conforming means it used to be legal and then the law changed. Or there was no law, then there was a law.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't be pre-existing non-conforming.
Isn't that what we're
and
doing
not
for the
have
airstrips?
been legal previously.
There was no,
Essentially,
there was no
There
code
was
for,
no,
There
there
was
was no
no,
law allowing them in the first place.
so then it
So
would
then,
qualify
yeah,
as a pre-existing
pre-existing
non-conforming, because it was there, but there was no law. I mean, I get what you're saying. You're saying because there wasn't something, then they're automatically not allowed.
Well, the code says if it's not allowed, then it's not allowed.
If it's not, yes, yes,
Right,
If the code doesn't say it's allowed, then it's not allowed.
right. So you're,
So the code says that, okay? So these things came after Rush had a zoning code, presumably the way it's structured now. So they never were legal.
well,
I think
did they get, I mean, did they get permit?
they're-
Who knows?
They're pre-existing, but they're not.
Oh, that
they're
thing's
not
been there since
pre-existing
the early
non-conforming
sixties.
because they never.
Up there by me, that's been there, Doc Smith put that thing in there. And then when, what's his name bought it, Dick Ski, he bought it, then we paved it and he went ballistic with lights and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing back then.
So could you, is that something else that we could mark down to ask Kevin about on this to see what we can?
what do we do about the existing ones?
Yeah, I mean, we're not allowing any new ones, but like Luther said, he knows of one right now that it already doesn't conform to this, and if that's what we're holding them to that standard, but it's already pre-existing, then.
They would have to get a variance. They would have to follow.
But what if they're, but that's what I'm saying. Wait, is that something that you could ask Kevin about?
Yeah, because we don't have the answer.
No,
Yeah.
so like,
Essentially, we're giving those owners the chance to be legal because of our, on page 32, existing airstrips.
Oh,
It says an existing airstrip may continue to be used at the effective date of this section if the airstrip use commenced within 5 years prior to the effective date of this section, and it has been used continuously. And the owner has timely applied for and obtained an airstrip special permit as required by this section.
okay,
Now, I think what you're arguing is they may not be able to meet the requirements of this section,
correct.
but then maybe they could get variance. But I don't think we should be writing laws to help out people who have a legal facility.
No, but I didn't say, I'm not saying that on this, I'm just saying that, I don't know, if it's something that has been there, and like Luther said, that airstrips has been there since the sixties, and it's been continually used since then, that I know you said you can't get pre-existing non-conforming, but I'd like to get Kevin's feedback
If
on
it's
it.
from the sixties and that was before zoning, they would be pre-existing. It had to be before zoning.
before we had a zoning code.
I don't know when we got it.
Oh, I don't, I guess, I can talk to Kevin about it, I
Yes.
guess, see what he says.
Once again, the code committee did not make anything illegal that's illegal now. That's legal now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
This is because they've been illegal.
So we ask.
I'll ask Kevin about airstrips. Stop there, it's almost 10 o'clock.
Sure. We're gonna have to come back to it anyways, because we gotta get answers from Kevin on stuff.
What's that?
We're gonna quit there. But if we gotta meet on this again anyways, because we gotta get answers from Kevin on a couple of the issues, so.
Right,
Stop right at the airstrips.
120,
yeah.
I'm sorry, so just so I know exactly.
120-62.
120-62.
What, no fracking?
Frankie's all done.
Only in the residential.
Residential fracking. There we go. All right, then, we can motion to adjourn.
Well, thank you for the lively discussion.
I'll second.
I still love you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Gene,
Thank you very much, everybody.
that's what's good about it. We're allowed to disagree. We're allowed to just have different opinions.
Yeah.
It may seem like it's heated, but at the end, we'll have a conversation like this.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll have.
That's the way it should.
Oh.
yes, I agree.
I don't know what the heck this fell out of here, it was on the floor.
You're lucky your chair didn't come apart.
I know,
Oh,
right?